Seminole Headlines begins right now. 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Hello, boys. How the hell are you? We're back to playing football. That's a good thing.
Much better this week.
Yeah, you were a mess. Last time we sat in this room, man, he could barely.
We were in this room.
Yeah, that's right. We were all at the house, but he was barely functioning. What a trooper. What a trooper.
I got to say, what was cool is you feel the Seminole Headlines family, because I got so many text messages, some ladies stopping me at Publix, just checking on me. Like everybody, I sounded worse than I felt, I think. I didn't feel good.
Yeah, you sounded like death.
Worse. And then the next day was pretty rough. But, Corey, a lot of people would have been knocked out for a couple weeks.
Well, you're different.
But
you're
I
built
was
different.
Yeah. I mean,
you're absolutely built different. You
picture of
hardly
health.
ever get sick.
Picture
you
of health.
Yeah, you've always been a picture of health.
Well, there it is. So, and we would say thanks to everybody for that. Just like we say thanks to our friends at Register Sausage. Yay, sausage! And tailgate week returns as we get set to play Virginia Tech.
Did you see what Ben broke out this weekend?
No, I missed it.
It's just
he's out of control.
I mean, really is. He needs to start one of those 80s commercials. Like,
I can't believe
Crazy Ben just lost his mind.
I'm insane.
He put out a new one that doesn't even require a promo code. Just all online sales since the time he announced it over the weekend through Wednesday night. 50% of all proceeds are going to go to the Battle's End.
Wow. So doing some things here. What?
No discount. We're not giving you a discount, but 50% of all the proceeds, any online sales through the end of the day, Wednesday, will be
retention and acquisition is very important.
I was going to say, do you guys like watching Keon Coleman play?
You like winning
football? You want to watch him play next year? Buy some sausage. Lots of sausage.
And the website is registermeats.com. And definitely make that happen. Also, if you are in the Southeast, it's constantly expanding. But if you go to your local grocery store, they might have it. If they don't have it, talk to the meat manager.
Complain a little bit.
Say you want some registered sausage.
Voice your concern.
Complain a lot.
Yeah.
Tell them
every day.
Yeah. Tell them you want the andouille, and if they try to correct you on how to pronounce it, we'll say, no, that's how Registers pronounces it.
Yeah.
Andouille.
Always have, guy. Don't worry about me. Just get the sausage in here.
Can you just get it?
Yeah.
No matter how you want to pronounce it. I want it in front of me.
I want to be able to buy it. Let's go. So how do we feel coming out of the bye week? Do we feel really – I've noticed two types of feelings amongst the fan base. I'm kind of curious for you two. Where are you at with this team right now? Obviously, elated they're 4-0. We kind of surveyed the landscape, realized probably what's necessary navigating forward. Pretty much looks like Florida State's going to need to win out to be one of the four. And it's a weird year in college football, so there's a lot of why not us, which I would agree with. But how do we think they're going to play? Because I think they've been given the blueprint to how they have to play defense. And then if they're healthy on offense, I think we'll see more diversity. Do you agree?
I'm invigorated. I'm in the reinvigorated camp.
Oh, okay. Is there another camp, or people like after a bye week they're feeling worse?
Some people are kind of like, man, this offense was clunky.
Well,
LSU doesn't look so good anymore.
I think that was prevalent over the weekend. A lot of people
Clemson's defense is like its own entity. Like you almost can't even judge.
No, but the LSU looking so bad is what's making people think, oh well.
Well, and Southern Miss keeps giving up 1,000 points to everyone.
There's reason for both sides of this discussion. I think that's fair. And I do think that, you're going to have to look, it does seem fairly sustainable what Clemson's doing, right? They should win a bunch of games moving forward, but they do have a difficult schedule. So if they were to log a third loss somehow, all of a sudden your win is diminished, even if it shouldn't be. And then we know LSU barely got by Arkansas and then gave up 55 points and 700-plus yards to Ole Miss.
But scored 49.
Well,
just throwing that they did.
And hey,
I'm just saying.
6-point loss on the road.
You also got to remember, they're going to get a big bump at the end of the year when they beat that Florida team.
There you go.
Those guys are rolling.
Woo.
Yeah,
that was a fun press conference this week. We're going to have to use that.
And I think we'll see how it plays out, man. Who knows what North Carolina and Miami are? Who knows how Clemson finishes the season? Maybe Duke. If you beat Duke, that Duke only loses twice, and they're both to know. I mean, we don't know what it's going to look like in December. I would agree with you, though. The way the first month has played out, it might have been this way anyway. Even if LSU was a 9-win, 10-win team, you might have to go undefeated. The good news is you are literally going to be favored in every game you play, probably all of them by double digits. Maybe not the Miami game.
I was going to say the Miami game.
Maybe not Florida, but they will be. You will be favored in those games. If you win the games that you're favored to win, you will be undefeated and playing in the playoff. But that's a big if.
But don't style points matter? Like if they start
not for an undefeated team. Oh
no,
yeah,
but if they have one loss, but instead of getting by in the way maybe they have in a couple of these games, the BC game, obviously. But if they just start dominating people but have one loss, won't that be a factor?
I think it depends on who the loss is to. But yeah, it could be. Like if you go and lose at Florida 30-28 on some craziness.
Well, let's see what Florida is the rest of the way.
But you blow out a one-loss North Carolina team by 40 points.
Yeah.
You blow out Miami by 28 points.
Handle Duke.
You all that stuff. Yes, I think you could get a get out of jail free card. You could get a little bit of a margin for error, but don't play that game. The Big Ten and the Pac-12, like they might beat each other up, but there's going to be one team from the Big Ten that's obviously going. There's at least one team from the SEC that's going. There's not many spots left. It could be two from the Big Ten.
I'll be honest with you. At this point, I kind of think Michigan's going to go undefeated in the Big Ten. I don't think that Ohio State team's going to beat Michigan, and they haven't the last 2 years, and I don't think they're going to this year. I'm beginning to worry Michigan's going to go. So that'll be
Where's the Penn State game?
Don't know. We'll check it during the break because you're right. That should be a great game. But I just it's interesting to kind of try to figure out what's going to play out is difficult. Just win your games. As Corey was saying, you're going to be favored in all of these games. And frankly, the one you're most worried about, Miami, it's in Tallahassee.
Yeah.
You probably, if you're healthy and playing well, you ought to go undefeated in the regular season because you did navigate the first four undefeated. You found a way to beat Clemson on the road in a game that, it's hard to imagine you won, but you did. And so now you're in a situation where you get to benefit from that because you are going to play some teams that I think you can just absolutely hammer. And to your point, they're going to need style points in some cases. If I'm Mike and we get this offense humming, I'm running it up on everybody I can because these resumes are all going to be dangerously close. Let's say everybody has one loss.
Yeah, the Pac-12 being good doesn't help.
No, yeah. I mean, it's like, what if everybody suddenly has one loss? It seems likely that Georgia at this point is going to drop a regular season game when you look at that sorry offense. And then when you watch everybody else, you can see their flaws. I don't know. Texas, Oklahoma this weekend should tell us a lot, right? Texas has looked really good, but that's a rivalry game. I think you got to kind of root for Oklahoma in that game. I know I'm biased, but I don't know who else is going to beat Texas.
Noldad 77 says Michigan is at Penn State November 11th.
Oh, it's the same day as Miami, I think. Florida State, Miami.
Big weekend.
That'll be
a big weekend.
Wonder if the game day would be here because Big Fox noon Saturday Urban Meyer show will probably be at the Big Ten game.
But you're in a position that you wanted to be in, and we all would have celebrated that, no matter how it's looked or what you're worried about or what you think about the rest of college football. You're in the catbird seat. Just keep winning in games in which you're favored, and you're set.
And there are enough data points, not just for Florida State, but as we watched the whole country on Saturday, we actually got a chance. I sat there and watched football for 10 hours.
It was almost too much, guys.
It was almost too much. You got overloaded.
Almost.
By the end of the day, I was like,
you look around the country now, and there is absolutely no doubt that Florida State can win a national championship. There's no doubt. Now, look, they could also lose 3 games. There's
I think that's a fair way of saying it.
There's a variance here. But when you've looked at what you've seen around the country, there's nobody that absolutely scares you to the point where you're like, can't compete with them. There's nobody.
No, right.
There's
there
teams
have been
that
years
are
in the past where you say nobody's beating that Bama team, nobody's beating that Georgia team from 2 years ago. Nobody, you could do that.
I don't think there's any team right now that's guaranteed of even being in the playoff.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like Michigan might lose twice.
What would you feel better about? Because one of the things that, Adam Fuller talked about yesterday, which I thought was well said. He's like, we know that this defense will come through when their back's against the wall. We know we've seen it, on some of those 4th and 1s against LSU, the way they played late in the Clemson game. I mean, we've seen evidence that when they have to get a stop, they've come through and gotten a stop in overtime. That was awesome. You could blame Clemson's play calling, but they made 2 huge plays on 3rd and 4th down there. But would you rather have that? Like, that's valuable to know that you're not going to collapse. Or would you rather have a defense that has played really well so far, but you haven't been tested in those kinds of moments?
I'm going to take the team that has shown me consistency throughout. I would take the defense that has been fairly dominant but never been tested.
I would take Michigan's defense.
I would agree with that, but it is good to know that these aren't a bunch of guys that are just going to fold.
Yeah, they're not rolling over. They've got some toughness to them. In fact, it's the most admirable thing about what they do because they're wildly inconsistent. When they're good, they're good. When they're bad, they're bad. But they are tough. They do bow up, and they do play tough in the red zone, that's for sure. And so you give them a lot of credit for that, and they earn that. That's what's weird about assessing Adam Fuller. I got asked the question last week by Tom. He said, do you think Adam Fuller's done a good job this year? If I say yes, I do so with trepidation because there's some parts of what's happened with this defense that I'm not enamored with. If I say no, that seems way too harsh.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, I don't think no is the right answer either. I'm stuck right now, but luckily they have 8 more regular season games to help us decide that, you know?
Well, and I think when you flip it, I think we've seen the defense has played well in huge moments, big moments. The LSU game, they took over the game. They got those stops. Obviously, Boston College, they got the stop late. I know it was dicey, but they did get a stop when it mattered.
The BC game as much as,
but still, they did get the stop and made them punt on a 4th and 24. The offense to me is what has not answered when the backs against the wall.
In crunch time.
That's what I'm saying. When their backs are against the wall, they fall through it.
Yeah.
And they're too good to do that. Now, it's almost the Boston College game is the one that I'm really upset with them and the way they played. And that was 3 weeks ago.
Right.
We got to get over it. But I just think it's hard to judge what this offense is based on its last game because Clemson is such a unique defense that you will not see again. I mean, those linebackers are ridiculous. The front four is really good. You will not see that again. But I do want to see them. They will be in a close game this month at some point. Don't know who it's against, but they will be in a close game in the second half this month. Will they be able to do enough to put games away like they were able to do last year?
Let's thank some folks out there. Marcos, we appreciate you. Do you think Mike should call more bootleg plays? It's usually easy completions for Jordan. I think they can get him going in a rhythm, help the run game. You know, it's interesting, by the way, on that note.
Thanks, Marcos.
Thank you, Marcos.
Thank you, ma'am.
They've called all kinds of misdirections, pseudo boots in critical situations in 3rd and 4th down and converted them only to have either been lined up illegally or have a penalty downfield. Those are the calls they go to when they're trying to get Jordan out of the pocket to give him the run pass option, and the plays are wide open to the tight end every time. And those plays have failed not because they weren't open, but because they didn't execute properly. You had an illegal alignment not once but twice when they've done that. They did it at the BC game. They had a huge play that got called back because the same thing, and then they did it again against Clemson. It's very frustrating, but I do think that's a way, obviously, to better utilize Jordan. But it's not your offense. It's just something you're going to incorporate when everything else is working well or as planned. And I think they're probably close to doing that again, but they've got to get this run game going. You and I talked about this yesterday.
Yeah, I think you almost have to have some design runs for Jordan just to kind of loosen it up for everybody else.
Well, and I think if he's healthy, they will.
Yeah.
You know, because he's refused to run, even on plays where he gets out of the pocket. There's nobody around him. He's trying to make impossible throws. That tells me he didn't want to run because he was hurting.
It's funny, man, because today it's practice. He's in green. They're not tackling him anyway. Yeah. But there was a play where he kept it. And you're just reminded in the moments when he keeps it. Sweet Jesus, he's an athlete.
Man, it's a weapon.
It's like breathtaking.
It is. Just the way he makes pretty fast guys look slow. And it's like, man, you look around the country at these dudes that are that kind of dynamic, including the Boston College kid. When he runs, it's pretty impressive. Jordan Travis is on par with all these guys athletically. And if you just can incorporate, but I know he thinks and he is. He's a much better passer than a lot of these athletes. But twice a quarter, twice a half, he can rip off 70-yard runs. No, I mean, I wouldn't do that twice a half, but run him twice a half. Remind people what an elite athlete he is, because he is, man. He literally could play wide receiver at a Power 5 school. He's that good an athlete.
I wonder if we'll see it more now that he's getting banged up.
Yeah, and they had a time to sit down this week. You know, when you had that bye week, opportunity to talk about what's working, what's not working, what we could all do better. Coaches look inward, self-scout. But you also talk to players about things they're not seeing. Jordan hadn't seen a couple of things, and I think they probably have to go back over his keys on any of the zone read option stuff. Like he can play better, and I just wonder if being dinged up really kind of limited the decisions for him.
You know what I was thinking about too? It must be exhausting in this day and age. It was always exhausting to be a quarterback. But at least back in the day when your coaches would call a running play, you're almost like, well, I kind of got this play off. Like, I've got to look at the formation. I've got to switch it from one side to another.
Now you're responsible.
But I don't have to make a real decision. Now it's like I might have to keep the ball, read the defensive end, and maybe pull it out and throw it if it's there. Never. It's got to be exhausting. You make so many decisions every single play.
Right. And then just physically, who was it? Who are the brothers that are quarterbacks, Boston College?
The Mannings.
No. Oh, man.
The Hasselbecks.
Hasselbecks.
Yes.
When we were talking, I think it was Tim, whichever one we talked to that would call ACC games a few years ago.
Yeah.
He was talking about Jordan and how unfair it is that people judge athletic quarterbacks, the ones who run, that's a big part of their offense, and you judge their accuracy. He's like, look, man, I could shoot free throws all day, but if you make me run wind sprints between the free throws, I'm not going to shoot as well. And he's like, that's these quarterbacks that run all the time.
We got a pillar in the form of Mark, and we thank him yet again as well. Guys, congrats on Coach Speak. It's Radio Gold.
Thank you,
question,
buddy.
Aren't you glad Mike hasn't been featured on Coach Speak yet? And do you think he ever will, and for what? Sure, he could be. I mean, everybody's fair game. Now, typically the guys that are featured are ones that are reeling. They're up against it, and they're kind of pushing back a little bit. Or they're very frustrated by a question. Mike does a good job of kind of keeping composure, but let's see. You fool around and lose a couple games in a row, get asked a tough question. Maybe Corey Clark comes after him. Maybe all of a sudden Mike's got his dukes up. And
he's pretty guarded. He's pretty guarded, though. I don't think he would ever let himself get reeled in to something like that, like some of these other coaches do.
A lot of the funniness in a lot of these press conferences is when coaches are trying to explain things away without really taking any accountability. And I think he does a pretty good job of taking accountability. So I feel like he wouldn't be as susceptible, but we'll see.
It's bizarre to watch, guys. You just saw it down in Gainesville. Like,
crazy.
Why would you ever say, after we win games, when I get asked questions like this, yeah, really?
Sounds worse.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
You're not in Louisiana. You're not in Lafayette anymore, man.
What are you talking about? Of course not. Yes, if you're beating people 50-0, you don't get asked questions about your incompetent offense. Yes, we don't. When you get blown out by Kentucky and you can't run the ball to save your life, and your defensive line is giving up 7 yards a carry in the first quarter, you're going to get asked about it.
One of the themes coming out of that game was that because he kept talking after the game, he's like, "That's what I want us to be, like physical and run the ball and stop the run." And so I think a few of the sports writers down there wrote stories about how he failed trying to out Kentucky. And somebody retweeted it and said, if Irish Schofel ever writes a story about how we failed to out Duke in football, I'm done.
That's deuces.
Final one, Steve weighed in early. Boy,
thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Yep, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Marcos, and thank you, Steve. Can't help but think the Clemson game doesn't go to OT. If the marching Chiefs are there to blast the war chant on D, how many points are the Chiefs worth on the road?
20, probably 25.
Yeah, probably.
By the way, so we all know the story. They usually get 1,500 in that corner of the end zone in Clemson to Florida State fans, and they only get 500 now. What is Florida State going to do to retort next year?
You get 7 tickets.
You get 7 tickets, and they're in lot 14.
Yeah.
Here's a
Stand
TV
outside the stadium and hope that your voice will be heard.
Here's a TV.
7.
I mean, you got to treat them.
Or they might just sell the tickets.
To sell them to anyone.
Well, we're selling to Clemson if they'll buy them.
Yeah, but put them somewhere, man. Put them in the Champions Club. Those are the worst seats in the house. Put the Clemson fans below the Champions.
Be up there drinking, having a good time. Not watching the game.
They wouldn't be watching the game.
Be good to go.
But do not get them close to the field. Put them as high up as possible.
Yeah, rather frustrating. Seminole Headlines 93.3 Real Talk Radio Warchant TV continues in a moment.
This is Jamie McClenny of Trek Financial, co-host of Cover Your Assets here on Real Talk 93.3. Since 3 of the largest bank failures in U.S. history last March, the S&P 500 is up over 10% as D.C. politicians added an additional $1.5 trillion in spending after raising the debt ceiling. This rally has been extremely narrow as a handful of mega-cap stocks are responsible for over 70% of the gain on the S&P 500 year-to-date. The yield on the 10-year Treasury has been below the 3-month rate for over 200 trading days, the longest streak in 6 decades. As one economist quipped, ignore these signals at your own risk. Managing downside risk is one of the biggest challenges that you will face in retirement. But a clearly defined risk management protocol can help to mitigate large drawdowns in your retirement nest egg. If you're concerned about where all of this might be headed, give me a call at 850-900-5200 and schedule an office visit to discover the risk in your current portfolio.
Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
The leaves are starting to fall, the temperatures will start to fall, and the prices are falling right now at Pinch A Penny Pools and Spas. Incredible dealer discounts up to $5,000 are available on all hot spring spas, the industry leader in hot tubs and spas. If you've never experienced the sensation and relaxation of having your own hot tub in your backyard, On a cool evening, you're truly missing out. The cold months are coming, and now's the time to set yourself up for the best winter season you've ever had. Plus, you'll gain the added health benefits of reduced stress, relief of sore muscles, and better sleep. You'll feel so relaxed after a nice soak in your new hot spring spa. You'll experience some of the best sleep of your life. Head over to Pinch A Penny Pools and Spas on Greer Road and check out their huge showroom, packed with the best selection of hot tubs and spas available. And ask about getting up to $5,000 in discount, low interest financing, and a free accessory to make your hot tub dreams come true. If you're ready to relax, Pinch A Penny Pools and Spas is ready to show you how.
Hi, this is Justin Colvin, founder of the Medicare Help Desk. I routinely speak to seniors who are overwhelmed by the multitude of coverage options available to them. That's why I created the Medicare Help Desk radio show. Tune in every Sunday at 11:30 a.m. where I provide clear answers to all your questions about Medicare.
So everybody knows, Eddie, that you are a spectacular cook. Of course they know that. If they go into Bumpa's, the food is always good. I mean, everything on the menu. Everything at Gordo's is delicious. I always, of course, get the bungalow chungla, as I call it.
The bungalow chung, Jeff.
Is that what is the pork?
The bungalow chung, Jeff.
Okay, the bungalow chungla. It's delicious. All these things, all the items, everything you do, a master cook. But, sir, I would ask you, what is a skill that you possess that you're particularly proud of, that nobody would know, and that you could share with us here?
Growing hair, Jeff. Growing hair.
You're an asshole. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Your next chance to splash into some cash with Swain Pools and Spas to win $1,000 is coming up at 2 p.m. Listen out for the keyword, and all you got to do is text the keyword for a chance to win $1,000.
Life is stressful. Dinner shouldn't be. That motto is why Register Sausage has been doing business in the Florida Panhandle and Lower Alabama for over 75 years. A proud sponsor of Seminole Headlines, Register Sausage always provides the best Southern smoked sausage to over 140 grocery stores and restaurants throughout the Southeast. Headliners have discovered the Register's difference. You can too. To find a store that carries Registers near you or to buy directly, head to registermeats.com. That's registermeats.com. Register Sausage. Yay, sausage!
Seminole Headlines returns now. Head to YouTube and search for Warchant TV today to catch the show live or on demand. Now, here's Jeff Cameron, Ira Schofel, and Corey Clark.
How'd practice go today, boys? People want to know.
Corey's headline was passing game on fire.
They did look really good. Really good. The receivers, there was one stretch of one-on-ones where, again, it's always it's the counterbalance. Like, okay, the receivers were great. Well, that's not good for your DBs. But they made 7 straight catches in one-on-ones, including like 6 of over 30 yards. Huge ones. Keon, Johnny, Winston Wright had a really nice catch. Destin Hill got interfered with, but still made a nice catch.
There's usually a little more back and forth.
A lot more back and forth. The receivers brought it, and Jordan was really, really good in 7-on-7.
I bet Destin Hill was shocked the ball was thrown his way.
Well, one-on-ones, he knows it's coming.
He must have been like, my goodness.
Yeah, what is this? What is this thing coming, hurtling towards me?
Yeah, had a chance to make a play.
But they looked sharp. Jordan looked especially sharp, but the whole offense I thought looked sharp.
So neither of you, by the way, as an aside, just go ahead. All right, make a football point. Go ahead.
Just following up what Mike Norvell said yesterday at the press conference, that some of those guys who've been injured would be out there today, and that happened. Robert Scott was practicing a lot at left tackle, which is great to see. Ja'Kai Douglas is back out there. Kentron Portier was back out there.
Yeah.
And again, we kind of forget about those guys, but those were expected. A lot of people thought those guys would be competing for a starting job in the spring, and they haven't really played the first 4 games. Well, now they're available.
Ja'Kai looked, I mean, Ja'Kai, what his strengths are.
He's fleet of foot.
He's very quick, very, very quick, and he looked good.
Good to get healthy.
Tuesday, yeah.
Always good to have all your weapons. Tony writes, gentlemen, do you see FSU going undefeated? Which team poses which team is the threat to beat FSU? I love the show and go Noles. It's interesting. That's the weird thing about Florida State. We're all at once going to tell you that Florida State's capable of playing for and winning a national championship. We're also here to tell you, based on what we've seen, that they could lose to any one of these teams on the schedule.
They almost lost to Boston College.
Right.
I mean,
right. And other teams have not had as much trouble with Boston College. That's the other part.
I tell you who did. Virginia.
Yep.
Virginia had a whole bunch of trouble.
That game further pissed me off about the Boston College game.
Oh, did you have the Cavaliers and some points?
No, Virginia's one of the worst teams in football, and they're
They
right
were-
there on the
Oh,
verge of
yeah.
Boston
Hey, man,
College.
they fine. They won. The Eagles showed some grit, I thought.
They had to battle back. Virginia was on them.
Look, man, you don't go in an alumni stadium and just walk away with an easy dub. Just
Okay.
ask Northern Illinois. They won in overtime. They had to go to overtime
Yeah.
to beat Boston College, and Holy Cross, they didn't get a dub.
No, this close.
Yeah.
This close. It didn't have what it takes to get a win on the road there.
No, only Florida
Just
State and Northern Illinois.
If you had to pick one right now, I'd say Miami. I think Miami's probably looks the best of the teams that I think can beat Florida State.
I also want to see again. They got a month before they play, but Miami. Yes, I think Miami's the answer. But they played one team that is any good at all,
Right.
and now it's a good team, a very talented team, and they housed them in the second half. It was impressive. But let's see how they look, even against Georgia Tech, who they should beat comfortably. And then next week they got Carolina. Let's see what they look like there.
That'll be a good litmus test.
Okay, so Khalil writes, which secondary combined with the front six would make a better defense? You ready? Rhodes, T-Buck, Leroy, Derwin, Cody in the slot, or Ramsey, Dion, Joyner, Brooks, and PJ in the slot.
So you got Xavier Rhodes,
Yep.
Terrell Buckley,
Yep.
Leroy Butler, Derwin James,
Yes.
and Tay Cody.
Yes.
Or Jalen Ramsey, Deion Sanders.
I think you're taking
I'm going-
Jalen
I'm
Ramsey,
going the
Deion
second
Sanders.
group.
Yeah, the second group is the
We
one.
love you, T-Buck, and we love you, X.
Yeah.
But the
And
two
Leroy.
Hall of Famers
Yeah.
are probably the guys you go with. And plus, the other guys aren't bad when you're talking about LaMarcus Joyner and Terrence Brooks. But, this one has Derwin James and Leroy. Leroy Butler's a Hall of Famer, and Derwin James might end up being one. So, I don't know, man.
I think I'll go with the second
I'm
group.
taking that second group, brother.
You know what? I'm telling you, though, I see what he's doing
Mm.
because the weakness of this secondary is the safety play.
Yeah.
Give me Derwin James on this team and give me Leroy Butler on this
The
team.
way Jimbo used him?
I was going to say, because
Or-
Derwin James on this team, if used the way that he was utilized here, is useless.
Well, no.
It's useless
Clearly,
to
we're
you.
going to use him. You use him like you use Jamie Robinson.
Okay.
Have Derwin James and Jamie Robinson's role. This defense is,
Right.
I'm going with the first one. I think you need better safeties than as good as obviously Deion was pretty good at football. I'd still go with the two badass safeties.
And that's the other thing that Mike alluded to when they first got back is how close everybody is to getting healthy. And I think the biggest part of that, as much as I like Robert Scott, and I think he's important, man, Akeem Dent getting healthy is going to be
big,
huge because clearly they've been a little lost out there at that position without him. And it's not that you don't have guys down the line that you're really excited about, but they're the guys with very little experience. And the guy that they've used to substitute in that spot has had his tough moments.
And they're going to, and they're targeting him. I mean, that's the thing. I remember Mickey Andrews talking about when they first joined the ACC, the first 7 or 8 years they were in the ACC, he said, you realize that some of these teams were not that well coached because you'd substitute players and they wouldn't get attacked.
They wouldn't get attacked.
And then later he said, once the rest of the ACC got better, teams,
Yeah.
as soon as you put in a backup that was susceptible, they would go after him. Well, people have been targeting Kevin Knowles. He's not he did not play safety his first 2 years here. He made the transition this year. It hasn't gone particularly well, so they're going after him. So I think Akeem Dent being back there might just change kind of how teams are going at him a little bit too.
Yeah, and I think it's a tough ask for him, too. As much as he is a player that you like because of his work ethic and he cares and he's willing to do whatever for the team, he's undersized for the position. He struggles to come up and make tackles, and I think that's
not
going
a
to
physical
continue.
kid. I mean,
Yeah.
he's not. I'm not saying
You're not saying he's soft, but
shying
he's
away from
undersized.
tackles.
It's
He's
just
just
a
an
better way of
undersized kid.
saying it. He's undersized.
There's the LaMarcus Joyners are rare.
Very rare.
You know.
Yeah, and so it's going to be hard for him. I understand why they wanted to give it a go. Remember, they tried to go out and get another safety. They just lost out on the kid.
Yeah.
They didn't get him.
It's really the only one they lost
It's
out on.
pretty
I
rare
feel
that
like.
they lose out on a portal guy. They lose out on a portal guy that went to Bama, right? I
Yeah.
mean, what are you going to do? But that guy, they knew they needed somebody else because they were worried about having an injury at that position. They love the incoming talent at the position, and I do too, by the way. I think the length and size at that position is going to be extraordinary moving forward. But none of those guys have played big-time college football at all. They're freshmen, so it's tough.
And I like the idea that it sounds like they're going to force those guys to play these next few games. And I think that's good. Those guys, if they get beat once or twice in some of these games, it's not the end of the world against Virginia Tech. But they need to see what those guys have because they may be able to help you in the back end.
Unless you're fooling around and it's tied at 10 in the third quarter and you can't have them out there. And that's the other part of this is that when you have opportunities to bludgeon people, do it because you're going to need that time to get guys like this a lot of experience. There's no replicating being on the field for a game with the stands filled, no matter the score. Like that, dealing with your emotions in that situation, dealing with your adrenaline, that takes some getting used to. making a mistake and then being allowed to learn from it, and as opposed to the game's too close, I got to yank you off the field now because I can't have you out here. We could lose the game. That's they have to do basically their job. Treat it at this point. If they all go out and execute, you have an opportunity to beat these teams badly. All those guys get playing time, and Florida State's suddenly much better on defense. I do think they're going to be hyper aggressive. Obviously, not blitz on every play, but they're going to allow these guys to play very aggressively as opposed to sitting back. Why wouldn't you? The evidence is overwhelming. We now know that's how they have to play.
I loved listening to Braden Fisk talk today. I mean, he watched that video. I mean, he's just a cool kid. One funny part was when he was talking about the fumble recovery. I don't know if you asked him or Aslan asked him about him tipping the ball to Kalen DeLoach, and he was like, I'm a little irritated about the narrative out there that I wouldn't have scored because you guys see me every day.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a good point.
He's like, you didn't have my back, which is true. Because I think with a convoy, he's the only people that could have tracked him down was an offensive lineman that wasn't going to do it. So it would have been Klubnik, and you just have DeLoach as a lead blocker. Right. He's going to score.
Yeah, the one thing I will say, of all the defensive linemen, he is the one that I would have said could score because he races Mike at the beginning of every practice, and he's fast as hell for a 300-pound guy. Yeah. In fact, that's terrifying. Think about how terrifying that would be. If you're like playing a game and you pissed him off somehow, like you're playing a game of water balloons or something, and you actually hit him in the face.
And he starts running
and he started sprinting at you, and
you can't outrun him.
But you're 20 yards away. You're like, I got to chow.
Would you do like an alligator and like zigzag? Is that what – I guess you're trying to get up a tree.
You climb a tree. But you don't do that with bears, right? Because bears can climb trees.
Bears can climb trees.
So what do you do with the bear?
I'm not staying on the ground.
That's such a bad realization.
Oh,
you climb the tree, and then he just looks up at you. And, all right.
I'll climb. Well, then I'll jump down, and we'll just play this game all through the forest, bear.
Watching the grizzly just come up there fast. You're like, this is ridiculous.
I still like that you have the higher ground if you're in the tree.
Yeah, you don't stay on the ground. What if he's bored? What if he doesn't want to climb the tree? You might survive just conveniently because he doesn't want to do that.
You could throw stuff at him, acorns.
Get a brick as you're going over.
The brick. You pick up a brick on the tree.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, get you some of this, bear.
It's a tree with bricks in it. One of those.
It's an awful idea. Of all the apex predators, the idea of watching one, after you get to the top of the tree, you've got a 200-yard head start, so you climb this tree, and then you watch this dude roll all the way in from 200 yards and then just look up at you, start climbing the tree. That's bad news.
Do they climb quick?
Oh, they can climb very quick.
Oh, can they? I thought at least they might climb slow.
They're not like lizards, but they can climb fast.
I just feel like you could, if you got up there.
What are you gonna do? You can't fall, Corey, if you're way up in a tree.
You could try to jump on its head.
You could.
That's a risky maneuver.
It absolutely is.
It could go poorly.
Take your chances.
You got to do something. You can't just sit there and let him crawl up and eat you.
I think I'm gonna try to kick at it.
I'm kicking in its face.
But it's gonna grab my leg and rip it off.
It would be unfortunate if
it's a tough battle. It's a tough situation you find yourself.
If it was a high IQ bear that sits there and says, you know what, you got to come back down. I'll just wait. I got nowhere to be.
Would you? Cruel. That's cruel. Just come eat me.
Wait for you to
eat me. I
would do not have to come back down. I would starve to death before I go down and get eaten by a bear.
Weakened by the lack of food.
That's what would happen.
And then you just fall out.
And then he's like, I knew that was coming.
Because it's not a quick. It's not a quick death.
Bones. You got nothing. You could have come and eat me right away.
It's not a quick death. And more accurate to Florida though. What can alligators not do when they're chasing you? They go fast too, right? But
straight ahead.
They can't go
distance. Distance, maybe.
Yeah, they don't like to go distances, and they do struggle when they're weaving.
When you're going side to side, they struggle to pivot.
So if you could beat them like for 150 yards, I think you're okay.
But if you have like a good shuttle, if you have a quick shuttle back and forth, you can.
Yeah, you saw that a huge 14-foot gator just killed somebody in Florida this week.
And a bear killed two people in Canada at a national park.
Really?
You're in their space, baby.
What are you gonna do? Hey, it's fine though. It's fine. You go out doing what you love.
Did they try to go up a tree?
That's a great question, Ira. I don't know.
I always think that little effort with the spray, like pss, pss,
the bear spray. What is that even?
Doesn't feel like that's gonna do anything.
I feel like that's the biggest load of nonsense.
Get out of here, bear.
Oh, the spray's not working. I get my money back.
I was going to say, for a business standpoint, the great thing, you never have to give a refund.
You did it works or you're dead.
Seminole Headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio. Warchant TV continues in a moment.
Your local news now.
Warren Charles Culp has been found and arrested in Bonifay, according to Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, after allegedly fleeing the night of being released from jail September 21st on bond. Culp was wanted out of Jefferson County for scheme to defraud and also made statements that he would make law enforcement kill him. On September 27th, HCSO says he received information that Culp was staying at the Holiday Inn Express in Bonifay. Deputies arrived at the hotel and located Culp's car in the parking lot. While waiting for backup, Culp had been observed peeking out of his room window several times. Culp was taken into custody without incident. Culp was allowed to call someone to tell them where his car was, and his belongings, such as his duffel bags and cell phones, were taken from his room and secured inside of his car. Culp was transported to Holmes County Jail pending extradition to Jefferson County. This is Rachel Anega with your Real Talk 93.3 Local News Update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Highs level off around 87 this afternoon. Under clear skies, northeasterly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Clear skies and quiet again tonight. Lows level off around 65. Highs level off around 87 tomorrow. Mainly sunny skies and calm. Upper 80s Thursday and Friday. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, 82.
Did you know metal roofs' survivability far exceeds that of traditional shingle roofs? It's time to consider a metal roof from Metal Roofing Sales of Tallahassee. We provide the best quality, least expensive material and accessories in the area, as well as material pickup and delivery. Our painted panels qualify for the City of Tallahassee's low-interest Energy Star loan program also. And don't forget about our veteran law enforcement discount. Give Metal Roofing Sales a call today at 536-9123, 536-9123.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus, happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas Wall, featuring 560 inches of flat screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Life is stressful. Dinner shouldn't be. That motto is why Register Sausage has been doing business in the Florida Panhandle and Lower Alabama for over 75 years. A proud sponsor of Seminole Headlines, Register Sausage always provides the best Southern smoked sausage to over 140 grocery stores and restaurants throughout the Southeast. Headliners have discovered the Register's difference. You can too. To find a store that carries Registers near you or to buy directly, head to registermeats.com. That's registermeats.com. Register Sausage. Yay, sausage!
Seminole Headlines returns now. Head to YouTube and search for Warchant TV today to catch the show live or on demand. Now, here's Jeff Cameron, Ira Schofel, and Corey Clark.
The other reason I'm glad they're coming off a bye is the Kyron Drones kid is massive.
Big boy.
You're going to have to want to stick your head in there. You're going to have to, obviously strap it up and be ready to hit, and early, because you don't want a kid like that. We talked about yesterday, I feel like Jordan plays better when he's also involved in the run game. I feel like it actually, in turn, makes him a more accurate and more dangerous passer. This kid, if he gets running, you're then susceptible to the deep ball, which they're just now having the light bulb turn on and realize. You saw it last week against Pitt. I'm not going to tell you that I'm worried Florida State's going to lose this game, but I am worried that if you screw around again for a half, you're going to have a game on your hands, and that kid gets stronger as the game goes on because he's huge.
Yeah.
And you want no part of that. I mean, this is the other part about being a good football team is when you have better players and you're bigger, stronger, faster in most spots for the game this weekend, you take care of business early so you don't have to worry about a team playing over their heads. I always call that treeing, but that only happens when teams get off to good starts. And we've allowed opposing quarterbacks to begin to believe very early in games so far this year. That's not going to happen this weekend if you expect to have an easy game. You're going to have to get him pressured early.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those games where it could really go either way. Like if Florida State gets a lead and Virginia Tech has to get out of what they're comfortable doing, then you could boat race them.
You absolutely could boat race them. And that's what I'm saying. Start quick because you got that opportunity in your hands now. Make him, obviously one-dimensional. If you're down 21 and you're Virginia Tech, if I'm them, I'm probably still going to keep running him because I know it's going to spiral if I have him sit back in the pocket and just try to beat us throwing the ball down the field. That's not going to work for him. you've got to keep running him. So they're going to probably stick to it. But if you get a huge lead, then obviously it takes them out of what they want to do.
I mean, he ran 21. And I don't know how many of these were scrambles or sacks or called runs, but he ran 21 times in that game.
Yeah, a lot of it's designed.
I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot, though. And I know he's a big kid.
He's their second leading rusher.
You know, you wear a lot of hits.
Yeah.
If you do what you're supposed to do as a defense, the kid might stop wanting to get hit. You know,
Yeah,
he's going to be like, I'm going to. That you've got to do
super
that.
important.
Yeah, the Cassianos kid was different because he's so
Right.
quick. He could
You could
avoid
never get a hit
contact.
on
He's
him.
like Warwick Dunn. You couldn't get a solid shot on him. This kid, you will get solid shots on him. Make him pay for, like, show him you're not Pitt, man.
That's where I think Tatum Bethune, DJ Lundy, I think even these backup linebackers, I think maybe the kid from Northwestern, maybe he plays. You know, I just think that, yeah, you can be physical. It doesn't all have to be from the defensive line. And I think it would help to get Akeem Dent back. I mean, he's not Derwin James,
Right.
but he is a guy. He's a grown man. He's played 5-6 years of college football at the safety position.
One thing we've learned is we're not going to overlook Virginia Tech in the sense that the three of us don't play the game, but at least in terms of talking about the game, I think this is the conundrum with Florida State. They're good enough to blow Virginia Tech out. We all know that none of us would be shocked if we watched on Saturday, Florida State's up 56-10 or something like that late in this game. Nobody would be stunned by that. This is a 2-3 Virginia Tech team that has some bad losses that looked awful on the road against a subpar Purdue team, et cetera. You can go through all their
lost
schedule.
at Marshall.
Yeah, no, they've been bad.
Yeah. And the Pitt team they just beat has been bad. This
really
has been a bad
Can't
Pitt
protect
team.
their quarterback. The defensive line's not as good as it normally is. They've got a lot of problems. So this should be an easy win for Florida State. But we also know that the dark side of Florida State so far this year is they've made some things look really difficult. And even with a roster that suggests they shouldn't. So let's see which team shows up now. I mean, we're starting to watch with a very critical eye because it is a wide open landscape.
Yeah.
So are you trending the right way as we get further and further into this season? You got a beauty pageant on the one hand, so you need to play well. And on the other hand, you're just capable. Go play well. Go be good. You should be good. We said coming into this year, it's a different set of expectations for the coaching staff as well as the players. Everybody got ratcheted up. And that's what happens when you transform a roster and your floor is raised. Now you're compared to a different standard. So that's true of Mike. That's true of Adam. It's true of Jordan Travis. It's true of all these guys. Good teams take care of business in a game like this. And here's a great opportunity after you healed up, you fixed your problems, you had a chance to look inward, you rested guys that needed rested, you may be getting guys back that needed to come back. Go blow Virginia Tech out this Saturday at Doak. This should be a fun crowd, should be a fun game. You ought to be able to get an opportunity to play a lot of guys if you take care of business.
Yeah, I think the reality though is win the game. That's all that really matters. But what we're talking about, like, look, if they win 30-23, we'll be like, here we go.
Problem,
it's
Corey,
a problem
because we would have a big sample set then of a team that's underachieving despite their record.
Correct, but it would also show that if and when they do find it, they can still.
At some point, you are who you are. I mean,
Right.
if you're 5 games into a 12-game season and you haven't shown that, you'd be pretty nervous.
Sure, but teams do get better. And the point being, the beauty pageant doesn't matter right now. You just got to win games. You've got to. The problem I have if you play poorly against Virginia Tech isn't that you only win by a couple of scores, you win by 10 points. It's that you might lose the game. Like, that's what you have to avoid right now. You have to play well enough to avoid a horrible loss. And then you know, Georgia isn't going to look great every week. Alabama, nobody does. Literally nobody has looked great every week except Michigan, who has played high school teams. Right. So it's not just that you want them to look good for the beauty pageant sake of it. You just want them to start playing the way we know they can play because
because of what it portends. Yes.
Because you can't afford to lose games like this.
Well, and
you can't. And if you keep it close, crazy
but Corey,
stuff happens.
We do know, and I'm sorry, I want to hear your thought here, but there's a direct correlation with teams who, over time, just as a gambler, we all know this. When you're favored by 20 or 30 points in games and you consistently do not cover those, it comes back to bite you in the ass at some point because it's revelatory.
But when you say bite in the ass, you're talking about a loss.
Yeah,
I'm talking about it. Yes, it's telling you about yourself.
Yeah, you guys are basically saying the same thing different ways. I mean, your point is that it doesn't matter unless you lose. Well, his point is if you don't start playing well, you are going to lose. And I think when you look at this team, I do think they're going to start playing better. I still look at that first month as a very strange way everything came together. You had the LSU game, which is such a huge game. And then you have the next week against Southern Miss.
Come on, Ira.
And it was a direction and a bad team in a state I don't want to live in. And so they
hey, what's wrong with Illinois?
I mean, I just don't
the weather.
there. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but they go out and they take care of business in that game. And then the BC game was just such a bizarre one-off game because you had the slow start, you roar back, you take control, and then you kind of let them back in it. But I don't think that defines what this team is. I think LSU and Clemson define. You blew out one of the top 5-10 teams in the country, what we believed at the time in the season opener, and you went to Clemson and won when they played as well as they can play. Clemson played a very good football game, and you beat them in their stadium, and I think that's what this team is. But if you start having more games like BC, then you'd be concerned.
Well,
right now, I can look at BC as a one-off right now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't if it keeps happening.
Yeah, if this weekend we walk out of Doak Campbell Stadium with the final 27-24 Noles, no, man, we're getting further and further removed from believing Florida State is a really good team.
Yeah.
This
but
Virginia Tech
I guess
team,
I would
ought to blow this team out.
Agreed. But I would go back to and now the talent is different, but the 14 team beat Boston College on a last-second field goal. But the point being,
coming on the heels of an undefeated national championship
but
season,
they never
players had already proven themselves.
But they never put it together.
Correct, but for very different reasons.
Sure, but I'm saying that they still did. They accomplished what they had to do, even if they never played their A-plus
they
game,
went
whatever
undefeated
that
in the regular
means.
season, correct.
And so I think Florida State's talent level left with this schedule, even if they don't ever reach the A-plus zenith, they probably could still win out if they play B- to B-plus games.
I
But
agree with that.
I think we're thinking about, okay, we want to know what the ceiling is for this team because there is a championship to go win. And if you keep effing around with C- performances, then especially in my opinion on offense, you could lose these games.
Think back to when they lost 3 straight last year. I remember coming on the air and saying, you know what? I think they're going to go undefeated the rest of the way. I said, I do. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but I think that's more who they are. I'm frustrated. There's some things that went wrong.
What were the keg stands about if you were confident? I thought that was a bet that, like, if they do it, I'm going to be doing a keg stand because I don't.
No, I picked. You go back and listen to the tapes.
I got you.
After the third loss in a row, I came in and said I thought they'd go undefeated.
I thought it was
the rest
more
of the
like,
way.
hey, if they do this, we're doing a keg stand.
No, I think people weighed in and said, hey, if they do, will you do a keg stand? And I said, sure. And I was looking forward to it. But the point is, I thought I had a feel for that team, which was that they were good, not great.
Yeah.
And they were good enough to beat what was left on that schedule. And they were. When you look at this schedule and what we think Florida State can be is a much better version of the team than they were a year ago, right? We think they can be much better than that team. All right, well, so now's the time. I mean, you've got Virginia Tech and Syracuse in back-to-back home games in October. Fans are, excited. You're coming off a bye week. You're healthier than you've been. If not now, when? I mean, you got to start beating the hell out of teams. Now, Duke, we'll see if Riley plays. And if he doesn't play, then you ought to kick the hell out of Duke too. But these are all Pitt's not good. We thought they might be decent at the beginning of the year. Now that game, you ought to go up there and win that game handily. I think Wake is whatever. You ought to go win that game. I mean, I'm tired of us always worried about Wake.
If we'd asked any of it's ridiculous. If we'd asked any of us in the middle of August, 8-1 going into Miami, I think you would all say, man, that's a good season. And absolutely.
Yeah, things changed.
But now it's like, man, if you're 8-1 now going into Miami, just one loss, you'd be like, what went wrong?
Well,
like,
because it means you lost to either Virginia Tech,
one
Syracuse,
of those teams,
Duke, Wake, or Pitt.
Yeah, exactly.
That can't happen.
Yeah, I mean, it can.
Well, I'm saying that.
I know what you're saying.
Not without criticism.
Yes, correct.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah. So that would be very, very frustrating. And then look, you have North Alabama on this schedule, the Miami game and the Florida game, and we'll see if they're still playing down in Florida. Meaning, like, are they trying?
Yeah.
Because I mean, we'll see. I mean, that was a weird press conference. On Coach Speak, I want us to talk about this because that was a weird press conference from Billy Napier yesterday. We've heard press conferences like that. They're never good. They never tell you something good about a team. When you're like, I'm hearing things I like. And, when the one guy asks about last year's loss to Vanderbilt because they play Vanderbilt this week, he's like, this is 2023. Man, my man's starting to get a little testy.
Yeah.
And it's a little early to get testy.
Do you feel at all a little bit bad for Florida fans?
No.
I'm just saying.
Stop.
I did this on Wake Up Warchant.
None.
Think about the coaches they've had since Spurrier. Zook, who was a maniac. Urban Meyer, great college football coach.
2 national titles.
But you had to live with that.
Yeah,
you had to live with that dude.
It's easier to live with it when you're winning the title.
But not much. They hate that dude.
I know they do.
And then who was the coach after that? McElwain? Muschamp. Terrible.
Yeah.
Weird dude. McElwain, crazy person who lied about getting death threats.
Sleeping with
Sharks.
Dan Mullen, who's weirder than all of them.
Yeah, whose wife kisses all the players getting off the bus.
Well, and he wears a Darth Vader's mask for no reason. Darth Vader mask for no reason.
Yeah.
And then this guy who's calling all the fans outsiders. It's like they can't. Just be
Who
appreciative of Mike Norvell.
Who cares?
Just
buddy?
be appreciative
Who
of Mike
cares?
Norvell.
It's a beautiful thing.
Run!
Let's
What
hope
a
they
run
keep
of
it
coaches.
running.
So I covered them, in college, obviously. So I covered Shane Matthews. Shane's got a podcast.
Yeah.
And I heard
Former Florida quarterback.
Shane Matthews. And he had I heard him during the summer really talking up this team. He thought they could win 8-9 games. He thought everybody was totally wrong. So I tuned into his podcast yesterday to
You
get a feel.
you have a
I do.
wonderful
He
habit.
does.
Schadenfreude is his middle name.
Crazy,
This
man.
guy will go listen to any press conference to a losing coach.
He's been upset about Jimbo.
It could be like New Mexico State.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to hear what this guy has to say.
So I listened
Wake
to
up, Aggies.
Shane's podcast yesterday, and he threw out this theory that, man, Florida fans must be. He threw out the theory. This is one of your all-time great quarterbacks that he's like, I was thinking Florida was really good in 84 and 85 when they were cheating.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, then we had the run under Spurrier.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had the 6 years under Urban. He's like, but the other 100 years
are useless.
This is what we are.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
He's
There
like,
you go, Shane.
He's like, is this what we are? I mean,
Yeah,
it's like when he
kinda
was
6
working
and
through
6.
it.
Oh, no.
I can't imagine Florida fans liked hearing
They were
that.
like, thanks, Shane.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks
it.
for
Thanks
keeping
for some
that,
perspective.
crystallizing it for us.
He had somebody else, the other guest was on. He's like, so what's your point? Like, what are you getting at?
Yeah.
Like, you should be fine with that?
What's your point? We suck? We really suck?
Yeah,
He was struggling.
that's funny.
No, but I mean, listen, that you have the early stages of a coach who sounds like he's unraveling already, man. That was
Well, it's something to watch because this team might be playing for a whole bunch.
well, right.
the 2 days after Thanksgiving, and that's a team and a program to keep your eye on because could be a very big game.
Well, and if they're playing even decent, it's a hard game to win on the road, we know, and they'll rise up and play hard. And they do have some players on the defensive side of the ball, especially, although they didn't show up against Kentucky. They got run right through early and often, and that's the other reason to look at them with the John Desai is like, you weren't even ready to play.
Yeah.
You didn't even look like you wanted to be there.
Yeah, your offense is terrible.
You could
and then your
see
defense
in some of
looked
the
like
running
that.
plays. I mean, if you watch some of their run defense, where the defensive linemen are just looking to get blocked, nobody's trying. I mean, they just wore.
I had
that
a
ass
Florida
beating.
fan say to me, and he's a good friend of mine. He said, the defense put the offense in a bad position all day. My man, you gave up over 7 yards a carry in the first quarter. Don't give me that.
Yeah.
This wasn't about your offense.
Kid had
which
200
wasn't
yards at half.
He had
Yeah, I mean,
280 yards rushing.
That's insane. So, yeah, we got headliner questions forthcoming. Plenty of them, both on Facebook and Twitter. I'll try to get to all of them. Stay with us. Seminole Headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, and Warchant TV.
Many orthodontists in Tallahassee can straighten a smile, but at Birch Orthodontics, they're dedicated to providing the finest care possible. The experienced and friendly staff is trained in all of the latest techniques. So whether you need standard treatment like braces or Invisalign, or you have a more complicated case requiring extra attention, Birch Orthodontics is here for you. Set up your free consultation today by visiting birchorthodontics.com, BURCH orthodontics.com, or call 850-877-1692. At Birch Orthodontics, they create beautiful smiles that last a lifetime.
Someone who thought texting was a better idea than stopping for a traffic light slams into your rear bumper. Now your back is injured and you've got to be at work and rehab all without a car. I'm Jimmy Fasig at Fasig Brooks. We hear stories like this every day. You shouldn't pay for someone else's mistake. Call us at 850-777-7777 and we'll make sure you come back stronger.
There's no doubt that buying a home can feel overwhelming, especially if it's your first home. You're worried about location, school zones, square footage, inspections, insurance, loan approvals, interest rates, and of course the price. Buying a home could be the most significant investment you've ever made. But there's good news. You have our friends at Legendary Home Loans, and they're on your side and in your corner. They're going to go to bat for you. Shannon Young from Legendary Home Loans can help first-time home buyers get up to $25,000 for your down payment. For first responders, veterans, teachers, military, and healthcare workers. And that's not all. Shannon is an expert navigator of the home loan terrain, and you can trust that he's going to get you the most competitive interest rates and guide you through the process every step of the way. Plus, Shannon will also get your closing costs reduced. It's the Hometown Heroes program at Legendary Home Loans. Give them a call today, 844-FSU-LOAN. That's 844-FSU-LOAN. Or go to FSUHomeLoans.com and ask for Shannon Young.
NMLS number 2270-146.
This is Kyle, service manager from Barano Heating and Air. Schedule an appointment from your mobile device to learn about our Total Comfort Service Program. With guaranteed same-day service, 15% off necessary repairs, and $25 berry books to use towards air filters and other products. Turn to the experts at Carrier and Barano Heating and Air. Any day, anytime, anywhere. Online at baranoac.com.
Florida license CAC 1816-186. Hello, Leon County. Let's get ready to win with Ken. I'm Ken Preston. I want to be your next Leon County property appraiser. I'm driven, committed, experienced, and a dedicated community servant. I'm ready to put my experience as a former property appraiser to work to help make a difference for the people of Leon County. Let's go to work. Vote for me. Ken Preston for Leon County Property Appraiser 2024. Win with Ken. Hey, political advertisement by Ken Preston for Leon County Property Appraiser.
Life is stressful. Dinner shouldn't be. That motto is why Register Sausage has been doing business in the Florida Panhandle and Lower Alabama for over 75 years. A proud sponsor of Seminole Headlines, Register Sausage always provides the best Southern smoked sausage to over 140 grocery stores and restaurants throughout the Southeast. Headliners have discovered the Register's difference. You can too. To find a store that carries Registers near you or to buy directly, head to registermeats.com. That's registermeats.com. Register Sausage. Yay, sausage!
Don't go anywhere. Your chance to win $1,000 is coming up next on Real Talk 93.3 WVFT, Gretna, Tallahassee. The latest betting odds and line movements from Vegas. This is your action update. Now here are your latest lines from our guys in the desert.
Jacksonville Jaguars win 23-7 over the Atlanta Falcons at Wembley Stadium in London. The Jaguars were 3.5-point favorites. They remain in London. They'll play at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium this week against the Buffalo Bills. Bills are the 5-point favorite, 48.5 the total. College football coming up on Saturday. The Florida Gators laying 18 at home at Vanderbilt, total 54 at the Swamp. Florida State back in action out of the bye week, 25.5-point home favorites against Virginia Tech. Tampa Bay tomorrow, game one of their AL wild card, $1.48 favorite against the Rangers at home. Get your free VSiN subscription right now at VSIN.com. For more sports betting news and information, go to VSIN.com. Mike Son at Real Talk 93.3.
Yo, J Balvin here. Verizon just hooked me up with a new iPhone 15 Pro with titanium. How can you get one? By switching to my plan at the Verizon store, get the amazing new iPhone 15 Pro on them. When you trade in any iPhone, any model, any condition, guaranteed. And listen to my new song, Dientes, on your way to get the new iPhone 15 Pro.
Don't miss out. Switch to my plan from Verizon today. It's your Verizon. $999.99, 128 gigabyte only. Device payment purchase with no retail purchase with new smartphone line and unlimited ultimate plan required. Less $1,000 trade-in or promo credit applied over 36 months. Promo credit ends if eligibility requirements are no longer met. 0% APR.
Join Macy's and Hispanic Federation to support student growth and mentoring during Hispanic Heritage Month. Now through October 15th, help empower students to grow into leaders when you donate online to Hispanic Federation or round up your Macy's store purchase up to 99 cents and donate the extra change. Give back today, shop Latino and Hispanic-owned brands, and find out how we're creating brighter futures for all at Macys.com/purpose.
The future of joint pain relief is here. It's QC Kinetics, advanced regenerative medicine. This is amazing stuff. Hey, everybody, it's Greg Kish. If you've been told more steroids or surgery are your only options, don't be so fast to jump on that train. Get a second opinion and learn more about how you can harness your body's own healing agents to attack that joint pain you're having every morning. QC Kinetics doesn't mask the pain. These treatments go to the very root of the problem, using concentrated healing properties placed directly in your joint to restore and repair that damaged tissue. Imagine waking up every morning this fall with no more pain in your knees, your hips, your shoulder, your back, with no drugs, no downtime, and no surgery. It's all about the motion in life. And QC Kinetics is giving people their lives back with this all-natural treatment. Give my friends a call today, 850-391-4280. That's 850-391-4280. 850-391-4280. QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in regenerative medicine.
It's time to splash into cash with Swain Pools and Spas. Here is your next keyword.
Car. C-A-R. Car. C-A-R. Car.
Text that keyword now to 508-777-1000. That's 508-777-1000 for your chance to win $1,000. Sponsored by Swain Pools and Spas.
Many orthodontists in Tallahassee can straighten a smile, but at Birch Orthodontics, they're dedicated to providing the finest care possible. The experienced and friendly staff is trained in all of the latest techniques. So whether you need standard treatment like braces or Invisalign, or you have a more complicated case requiring extra attention, Birch Orthodontics is here for you. Set up your free consultation today by visiting birchorthodontics.com, B-U-R-C-H orthodontics.com, or call 850-877-1692. At Birch Orthodontics, they create beautiful smiles that last a lifetime.
It's time for Seminole Headlines, featuring Warchant.com's Jeff Cameron, managing editor Ira Schofel, and senior writer Corey Clark. Your weekly dose of all things FSU, pistols, and pies starts right now. Here's Jeff Cameron.
It's hour number 2 here at Seminole Headlines land. I got Ira across from me, JC rocking the ones and the twos. It's been a minute, gang. It has been a minute. I apologize.
Seminole Headlines land?
I kind of went blank.
Turned into the Big Bopper.
I got nervous when the camera was
I kind of went blank. I'm sweating.
Oh,
I'm sweating.
Oh, my God. Okay,
I
buddy.
didn't know that was going to happen.
Okay.
It's fine. It's fine, man. It sounded perfect.
Headliner questions forthcoming. We'll get to
I
them.
feel like we need judges, like a slam dunk contest.
That's my favorite one yet.
You holding up a 10?
I'm holding up a 10 because it was so bad.
I nailed it, man. I'm literally.
He got so nervous,
I'm
right?
sweating. I can't do this anymore. I can't make the hour number 2 promise. It's not good for me.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, Dr. Birch, I hope loved it as well.
Yeah, that was for you. That was for you, Heather. That was for you.
Birch Orthodontics, we always appreciate very much so. I need to run into Dr. Birch here. I think in the next week or so, one of the kids going back. Well, not one of the kids. Clark's going back. We're really progressing nicely.
Bryce doesn't just go back to see what's what?
No, he's good. He's like, I'm out of braces.
That's the thing. Kids don't like to go back to the orthodontist once they don't have to.
Once they don't have to.
I feel like
anymore.
they're just like, I'm done with this forever.
I'm flying the Cooper.
Yeah.
That's the end of it. But Dr. Birch does a great job. Her staff does a great job. And that's why we heavily recommend and endorse the Birch Orthodontics.
Yeah, the reality is someone in your family is going to have teeth like Clark Cameron at some point.
Yeah, it's true.
And you're going to need need some expert work, just like my kids as well. BirchOrthodontics.com is the website, BURCH orthodontics.com. Conveniently located northeast side of Tallahassee. Incredible customer service. They do payment plans. They'll work with you on your financing. And they also have free consultations. They do challenging cases, routine cases. They do beautiful work. And you won't leave without a smile. How about that?
Well done. You were all over it.
Good
Good job. You're ready for your cameo right there. Just perfect. Victory Cheese Balls writes, gentlemen, now that the much-needed bye week is over and the team is healed up, will we stay healthy enough for the remainder of the season and into the playoffs? Well, hell, it's football. Who knows? Or do we need to go and perform some sacrificial rituals for extra protection just in case? Hashtag Leviticus for that ass. All right, Victory Cheese Balls.
Right.
Well done. Well done. No way of knowing that. It's football.
Yeah. Would you do a sacrifice if you? No.
You wouldn't. You would sacrifice. You'd sacrifice a bear.
No, I don't have a problem with
to sacrifice
bears. I
a
don't
human
wanna hurt
being.
a bear. I don't. There's no reason to hurt a bear.
So if somebody I guess it could be a head of lettuce, something living.
A head of lettuce, sure,
but not an animal of any kind.
Do you
not a sentient being? No.
For a guaranteed, nobody's gonna get hurt the rest of the year.
Everybody's got different answers for this, right?
A
Depending on
squirrel.
the culture you're
How about a squirrel? Can we get behind? Squirrels are dying all the time anyway.
7,000 of them run in front of me every day.
Right.
So I suppose, yes, it's going to happen anyhow.
Yeah.
So I might as well in order to.
I mean, you can make it humane.
Yeah, I guess.
But yeah, I mean, sacrifices. People don't do that much anymore.
No, not much anymore.
Yeah.
Moved on since the Aztecs. Brandon writes, Keon leads the country with 14 contested targets. I can't decide whether that's a positive or a negative. Do you think it's a byproduct of the way he's being used, or could it just be because he's not getting separation and winning on his routes, making things tougher? It's fascinating. I think it's because they see what an incredible athlete he is every day in practice. And when in doubt, Jordan thinks that a 50-50 ball is going to be won by his guy. I mean, it's as simple as that, I think. Keon's not a 4-2 guy, so there are going to be plenty of guys that can run with him. But Keon is a superior athlete to the vast majority of the people that are covering him, and I think it's an easy fallback. But I also think Jordan has had to do that because he has not wanted to engage in other aspects of what makes him special.
Yeah, it's a little peculiar, but I think it's a small sample size. I think it's gonna start evening out here as we go forward. I do feel like, again, just kind of going back to the way this month's set up and kind of the way these matchups have gone, I think we'll see the more diverse offense as it goes forward, and then that'll lead to less contested catches.
And that's really going to be exciting because we did see this all camp. We saw how fun this offense can look with all of the various weapons and ways in which they can attack a defense. I want defenses to have to worry about the entirety of the field, which opens things up. Obviously, at some point you have to pick your poison, and the middle of the field, last year when Jordan really began to soar, and it happened in game 1 against LSU, his pre-snap was spectacular, and he attacked the middle of the field. He really developed in that sense as a quarterback. His back foot would hit the ground, he'd let it go. We're just not seeing that right now. And the offense looks kind of convoluted. It's frustrating, right? It fits and stops and starts.
Yeah, again, though, I think it's just the last taste in our mouth is against the defense they will not see again.
No, but they pissed us off against BC the week before.
Well, that second half they
was
were
dreadful.
But the first 5 drives they were great.
I understand. That's what I'm saying. Fits, stops, and starts.
But that was just they just stopped. That was crazy. But I think the offense is more like the one that scored on 17 of 20 drives, not the one we saw last.
That's why you want to see it start to hum, because it's
last 5 quarters has been rough.
Oh, agreed. It's got a chance to be awesome.
I
just want it to be awesome.
Incredible.
It should be fun. Sir Stuart Wallace writes, are you guys at all worried that we fix, quote unquote, the ground game against these lesser opponents, make it our identity, and then we find ourselves having to again scramble against the better opposition down the road? No, because I think, listen, I guess it's just a matter of what your expectation is. There will be a matchup out there that doesn't favor Florida State. But if you go undefeated in the regular season, I'll take my chances, buddy. I'll take my chances that we're able to get into a game and figure it out if the offense suddenly starts to struggle, because that's exactly what they did against Clemson. They figured out a way to win a game where they could not run the ball to save their life.
Yeah.
I mean, they found a way. That's going to happen again. If you get to the playoff, you're going to face somebody who has a good defense. Let's say Georgia gets there. Do you think Florida State's going to be able to run on Georgia? I don't. So
Jordan Travis can.
If he's willing
to
run,
what I mean?
right? Yeah.
Auburn could run on.
They would have to do
That's
that.
what you'd have to do.
That's what they would have to do. But no, and listen, Mike has always wanted to run the ball. It's the basis for his offense. So if they can get that going, they're going to do that.
And I think that, again, I mean, I just think it's going to look different in these next couple of weeks. We'll see. I just want to table some of these conversations a little bit to see what happens over the next 2 weeks. Then we can kind of reevaluate, because, again, I think like Corey said, Clemson game's a unique situation. Not a lot of teams are going to have a lot of offensive success against that defense, especially there. And then, the BC game was just a bizarre day. Up until then, man, they had they score 45 against LSU.
And then they 66.
66.
They scored 17 of 20 possessions.
Let's see another game or so.
Yeah, we'll know more. If after 6 games they still can't run, we'll be like, well, okay, they can't
That's
run.
it.
Yeah,
just flip it up. Flip the switch. Just pass every down.
The retail appraiser writes, good afternoon, gents. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift's cat have a net worth of $30 million and $97 million, respectively. That's all. Timmy writes, besides Johnny and Keon, if Jordan need a jump ball for a touchdown, who would you rather catch it, Brock Bowers or Travis Hunter?
So say that again. What's the
Okay, besides Johnny and Keon, if Jordan needed a jump ball for a touchdown, who would you rather catch it, Brock Bowers or Travis Hunter?
Brock Bowers.
Brock Bowers has a much better history. Brock Bowers is crazy.
Brock Bowers' catch radius is insane.
It's not, and then
how about the one he just tips to himself?
Yeah, he's
not even open. It's not even like it wasn't a back shoulder throw. I think my man was just like, I've got to throw it to 19 here. It's third. The game's on the line.
It's an inaccurate throw that Brock Bowers
and then he makes a crazy catch. Here's
my question: what are we doing, Auburn? It's the only guy on the field you have to worry about.
Yeah.
Dude's just running free half the time late in the fourth
The
quarter.
touchdown is like, how is he that open?
It felt very much like Travis Kelce when Kansas City's humming. You're like, how is Kelce open again?
Always.
It's the one playoff game. He had 10 catches in the first half. What are we doing here?
Gronk was the same way.
It's very frustrating if you're rooting against them. Go Noles writes, any logical explanation for J-Trav's seeming refusal to throw the ball between the hashes? Well, I just brought this up. I think some things have been taken away.
Clemson.
Yeah.
Clemson.
But I also, I do think that Jordan's been, I mean, I don't know to what degree. We're not allowed to, we don't know. And so this isn't me beating around the bush. I believe that Jordan has been playing hurt because he hasn't done a lot of things as well as he did them a year ago. And I refuse to believe that with more weapons that he's suddenly not as good a player as he was a year ago. So I think that injury affected a lot of decisions and a lot of throws.
But there's also the it's natural too. I remember when Winky lost Peter Warrick. He actually became a better quarterback there for a while after the Dillards thing, because he's just throwing to the open guy. He didn't have to force feed it to number 9. And I just think when you have two receivers that are this good, it is natural to say, I've got to get them the ball. They're always, even if they're not open, they're open. And I think that kind of pervades the way you play quarterback.
But I also think Alex Atkins talked about it yesterday. I mean, part of it is if they're going to press and play man on those two guys, you're going to have some incompletions. It's a lower percentage play, but if you hit it 10, what did they hit it? Like 10 or 11 out of 20 something times. Well, that's still really good. I mean, that's a lot of times that's as good or better than a lot of 7-8 yard passes.
Well, but I also think nobody else is going to play Florida State like that.
Right.
I can't imagine. Maybe Duke does. Maybe Duke says, I'm going to put our corners on an island. Well, good luck. But your corners aren't as good as Clemson's are. Especially the Wiggins kid, who I guess is hurt, but he wasn't hurt in that game. Man,
till the end.
I think that's what I want to see is how does Virginia Tech going to do what Clemson did? I just can't imagine they have that kind of faith in their cornerbacks.
I hope they try to do it.
Right. I think Jordan hopes
plays.
they try to do it too. But I think that was just such a unique defense that you faced where they were willing to cover the middle of the field and give you shots deep with your two NFL wide receivers.
To Ira's point, let's see these next two games.
Yeah,
I do think
absolutely.
some things are going to change here, but not just because the opponent is not as talented as Clemson, but also because I think you had this bye week. You had an opportunity to sit down. Mike can go ahead and look in the mirror, but he can also sit down with Jordan Travis and say, Jordan, we're not doing this as well. We need to look at these things. Everybody can kind of fix what ails them during a bye week. Certainly can go a long way in improving it. So I believe they'll come out looking a little bit more complete on offense.
That's what they did. When did the bye week come last year? Was it before the Clemson game? Between the NC State and Clemson game? I know it came during the losing streak.
Yeah.
But I feel like because their worst two games offensively by far of the entire season were Wake Forest here and NC State up there.
I think it was Clemson.
Back to back.
Before Clemson, I think it was.
Then they had a bye week, and then they ran for over 200 yards the rest of the season every game. So they did figure something out during the bye week, and the offense looked worlds. I know they only scored 28 against Clemson, but I thought they played well in that game, just not situationally well offensively. So if they utilize this bye week like they utilized the one last year, you're looking for an offense that might be ready to take off.
Toby Noel writes, good afternoon, fine gentlemen, not counting Destin Hill. Who is the best true freshman on both sides of the ball?
I think over time, it might be Blake Nicholson, possibly. I think
Blake's got a chance.
Conrad Hussey's going to be in that conversation.
I do too.
You can't know with the lineman. You
Quindarius.
can't know with the lineman. It's got to be skilled people, right? Because you can't. Nicholson had another in coverage today against a running back down the sideline. Great coverage. Jumped at the right time, ripped it out of his hands, right there in phase.
Hakeem's going to be good.
Hakeem is coming on, man. He made a really tough contested catch against Renardo Green today. Just a great catch in one-on-ones. I like where he's coming, man. He's not going to do much for him this year, but he's even getting on the field against Clemson.
Well, and I'll throw a caveat out there to you. I think if he can figure it out from a maturity standpoint, Vendravius Jacobs has a chance to be very, very good.
Yeah, no, he's super talented.
He's uniquely talented, but you got to do everything right.
And in the chat, not Jordan, but persistent Jordan in the chat throughout Brock Glenn. And I think he's going to be in that running. I think there's probably 6 or 7 guys that we don't know what the future is going to hold, but could be in the running for that.
Good call on Brock Glenn. Yeah, good question too. Old school Noel writes, great shows, guys. I'll keep it simple. 1, what the heck happened to our running game? And 2, Jordan Travis getting hurt early in the season brings up the question again, who's QB2? Is it still Rodemaker?
Yes.
He seems to have the best grip on the scheme and winning game time. Studs behind him, though. I think it has to be Rodemaker.
It is.
There's no doubt right now.
It's going to be fascinating what happens in December.
Very
fascinating.
Well, nothing's going to happen in December. Well, I mean, maybe one of them, but I don't think anything happens with Tate until after the spring and see what happens.
No, but I mean, like what they do in the portal at that position. What Florida State goes.
You think
and does.
they'll go get somebody?
I don't think they'll
know.
I don't think they'll go get a quarterback.
All right.
I think they love Brock Glenn.
And
It's a matter of if Tate can hold off Brock. AJ's not winning the job.
And then you've got the freshman coming in for the next class.
Yeah, Croman Hawk's coming in for the next class.
But
That's
you
got to
wonder is if they're not comfortable with Tate, and they might be. I will see. Well, I think there is a chance.
It's a fun
it's not
conversation. Fans can have the discussion.
It's not a 0% chance that they don't. If there's a kid that sees what's going on at Florida State, a very talented quarterback, like all the ones in the Pac-12 that have transferred, you don't go get the kid from Virginia that went to NC State.
Armstrong?
That was a letdown.
Things haven't worked out, have they?
No, but
how about the kid that's at Pitt?
Yeah,
he's terrible.
But
then
hasn't worked out.
You got Hartman. You got the kid at Washington.
Listen, there are plenty of good football players out there. I'm just saying,
if one of them gets interested in you, if one of them is interested in you, when
you have a Brock Glenn and then you have a Croman Hawk coming in, I think that's a tough ask.
I know that's why I think it's going to be fascinating.
The only way, I mean, the scenario Corey's painting is the only way. If somebody, on the Caleb Miller level said, I have to go play with those guys, then you'd think about it. But otherwise, I don't think anything would happen until
who'd you say?
after the spring.
He meant Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams.
Who's Caleb? You said, I don't know if that's like a former basketball player. I don't recognize the name.
That's a Thomasville small forward.
Caleb Mills. Caleb Mills.
Yes. Talking of great transfers.
Yeah. He's at Memphis now.
We'll get to more questions momentarily. Hang in. Seminole Headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio. Warchant TV continues in a moment.
Someone who thought texting was a better idea than stopping for a traffic light slams into your rear bumper. Now your back is injured and you've got to be at work and rehab all without a car. I'm Dana Brooks of Basic Brooks Law Offices, and we hear stories like this every day. You shouldn't pay for someone else's mistake. Call us at 850-777-7777 and we'll make sure you come back stronger.
When you need a plumber quick, how long is an acceptable time to have to wait?
Hey, it's the Millers again. Just calling you about our little plumbing problem.
2 hours?
Hey, we're hoping you can get here soon because the water is getting really bad. I mean, please hurry.
4 hours?
I know you said you were on your way, but, honey, tell the kids to drink water.
8 hours?
Don't worry about us. We're fine.
At M&L Plumbing, you'll never have to wait long for quality, dependable service right when you need it. At M&L Plumbing, we listen to our customers, and our qualified technicians aim to achieve 100% customer satisfaction. So the next time you need plumbing work or repairs, think of the name M&L Plumbing, your local plumbing experts, commercial or residential. Give us a call, 850-575-9393, or visit us online at mandlplumbing.com. M&L Plumbing, for all of your plumbing needs.
This is Jamie McClenney of Trek Financial, co-host of Cover Your Assets here on Real Talk 93.3. Since 3 of the largest bank failures in U.S. history last March, the S&P 500 is up over 10% as D.C. politicians added an additional $1.5 trillion in spending after raising the debt ceiling. This rally has been extremely narrow as a handful of mega cap stocks are responsible for over 70% of the gain on the S&P 500 year to date. The yield on the 10-year Treasury has been below the 3-month rate for over 200 trading days, the longest streak in 6 decades. As one economist quipped, ignore these signals at your own risk. Managing downside risk is one of the biggest challenges that you will face in retirement, but a clearly defined risk management protocol can help to mitigate large drawdowns in your retirement nest egg. If you're concerned about where all of this might be headed, give me a call at 850-900-5200 and schedule an office visit to discover the risk in your current portfolio.
Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
So everybody knows, Eddie, that you are a spectacular cook. Of course they know that. If they go into Bumpa's, the food is always good. I mean, everything on the menu.
Mm-hmm.
Everything at Gordo's is delicious. I always, of course, get the bungalow chunglo, as I call it.
The pan con lechon, Jeff.
Is that what is the pork?
The pan con lechon, Jeff.
Okay, the pan con lechon. It's delicious. All these things, all the items, everything you do, a master cook. But, sir, I would ask you, what is a skill that you possess that you're particularly proud of that nobody would know and that you could share with us here?
Growing hair, Jeff. Growing hair.
You're an asshole. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Life is stressful. Dinner shouldn't be. That motto is why Register Sausage has been doing business in the Florida Panhandle and Lower Alabama for over 75 years. A proud sponsor of Seminole Headlines, Register Sausage always provides the best Southern smoked sausage to over 140 grocery stores and restaurants throughout the Southeast. Headliners have discovered the Register's difference. You can too. To find a store that carries Registers near you or to buy directly, head to registermeats.com. That's registermeats.com. Register Sausage. Yay, sausage!
Seminole Headlines returns now. Head to YouTube and search for Warchant TV today to catch the show live or on demand. Now, here's Jeff Cameron, Ira Schofel, and Corey Clark.
Let's keep it going, boys. We jump over to Facebook. All those were from Twitter. Now we go to Facebook. Brad writes, if on August 1st someone told you the following things would be true to this point, what would you have predicted FSU's record to be at the bye week? Daryl Jackson's ruled ineligible for the season. Jordan Travis got knocked out of a game. BC would play FSU to a closer result than they played Holy Cross. Winston Wright and Destin Hill have combined for 5 catches, no scores. Jared Verse has a half a sack, and FSU ranks 74th in rushing offense. Yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy. Now, there are other stats that paint a different picture that I could point to, especially advanced stats, as opposed to total offense or total defense, which are antiquated. But, yeah, those other stats are pretty amazing to think about.
I do think it speaks to, and I think there's some other things you could throw in there as well, but I think it speaks to injuries on the offensive line, Robert Scott, Maurice Smith not playing. I think it speaks to this is a team that hasn't needed things to go great to be 4-0, including wins against LSU and at Clemson.
Margin for error, right? It's gotten bigger because they're
much
better.
Bigger.
Right. Yeah, they're
much
better.
Bigger.
Like Georgia hasn't been great, and there were stretches last year they weren't great. I don't like you bringing up Georgia, but if you have the overwhelming talent, which you didn't in Clemson, which is why I think that's going to be such a good win as we go further along. Clemson's talented.
Yeah, and I also think if you put the other hat on, if you're a Clemson fan, you are livid. I mean, you really go back and watch that game, you have to be like, how the hell did we find a way to botch this?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're Clemson and I tell you that you're going to completely shut down Florida State's run game and that by the second half of said football game, really all they're going to have is a jump ball offense, you're going to ask yourself, how is this not a 14 to 17 point game? It's crazy, but screw them.
Yeah, and Florida State's defense played really, really well in the second half.
They did. And you know what? Suck on that, Clemson.
And by the way, here you go. Nick writes, hey, guys, the Clemson game was won solely by the defense. They saved our asses against the Tigers. Shouldn't we be giving Fuller and the D a little bit more credit for that win? I feel like people only like to beat up on Adam Fuller. I like the all-or-nothing Mickey Andrews approach and how aggressive he is at times. He needs to be more aggressive, Nick. I think he will be more aggressive moving forward.
It is funny, though, man, because what happens on our message boards, I'll read a thread. Like somebody will bring up something on a thread. They'll say something. I love the way this team does this. And then you'll have 20 replies where people like, yeah, Adam Fuller never does this. He never does this. He never does. It's like, yeah, man, he does all those things.
He does all
like,
those things.
I mean,
too,
there
are fair criticisms and completely unfair criticisms.
Yeah, the fair is obviously they don't start well. LSU had 206 yards on their first 3 drives. Yeah. Boston College scored 10 points on its first 2 drives.
And we've all assessed this, and he's talked about it.
But
so that's true.
The fair praise you can throw at them is they do a really good job of righting themselves and taking control of the game, and they've done that in every game they've won. Now Boston College had got away from them in the fourth quarter, but they still got that stop they needed.
They also do a very good job of stopping the traditional run.
They absolutely do.
They shut that down. That front four does very, very well. Those linebackers have come up and filled. They do a very good job.
I think they've given up. Other than the Southern Miss game in the second half, which doesn't count, I think they've given up 3 runs to running backs over 10 yards all season. The 35-yarder before the half against LSU, which was ridiculous on that draw, and then the one that the Clemson kid had. I mean, they have done an unbelievable job against the run.
Yeah, and I think that's what you can hang your hat on moving forward, is that's the thing that allows all the other stuff to become easier for you. So I'm hoping that we start to see that, because when you can shut down an entire element of an offense, good Lord.
Yeah, that's a good baseline.
Life gets a lot easier, man. You put people behind the chains all day long, you ought to be able to create some turnovers. Chris writes, yo, meat manager, sending you love to you guys, hoping Jordan is healthy so he'll tuck and run a little bit more, even if he's not 100%. Whatever happened to the concept of sliding before the big hit, get down. He tends to take the hit or get out of bounds at best. We just need a threat to be fully effective. I've loved listening to the Warchant outlets. Yay, sausage, and go Noles. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
What I like to say is, first, what I like to say is touchdown, first down,
get down. You just came up with that?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, I think Jordan last year was really good about sliding. The play where he got hurt on this year was just such a bizarre play where he started running out of bounds, then ran back inside, and then he got slammed down.
Yeah, you're like, just go out.
I blame the sideline. He was trying to get the first down. I think they didn't want him to stop the clock either, because they couldn't trust the defense at that point with a minute and something left against that vaunted Boston College offense.
Ben wants to know if, when I was working with ESPN, did they share the made-up stat that commentators talking heads would spout to cover the blatant homerism? There's no way that many SEC broadcasters are smart enough to come up with game control on their own. That's pretty funny. No, but here's what I will tell you this. ESPN does do this for all of their affiliates, and certainly for anybody that's in the building that's working for them and being flown around the country. Their stats and info team is the best in the world.
That's ridiculous.
And you get, I would get an email each week after the weekend's worth of games, let's say, for example, and it would be, I don't know, the equivalent of, if you printed it out, 10 pages long, and it would have a stat for every top 25 game, both sides, offense and defense, for the victor, and then it would also have the next game, and they would give you the stat matchup. And then from there, any of the players that were considered to be, front runners for the Heisman or All-Americans, depending on which conference, they would tell you what they did and what their advanced metrics are against this look or that look. So that none of those guys are walking around as encyclopedias of knowledge about every aspect of one's game. They're given that. And so it stands to reason, I would say, that if you work for the SEC network that ESPN built and invested huge amounts of money in, and you're then commentating a game involving an SEC team, you're going to push the SEC mantra. They're going to tell you to do that, or you're not going to work there for very long.
Yeah.
All right. Ted writes, hello, gents. It's time for us to hear Corey's hour number 2. We did.
Got it. Nailed it.
I need to hear it all the way up here in Bartlett, Tennessee. If you were listening online, you did. Let's get ready for a 3-0 October. Thanks for all that you guys do. Go Noles. Thanks, Ted.
Appreciate it. And also, if you go to Twitter or X,
don't you want a 4-0 October
this week? How many games? What do we have?
Yeah, it should be a 4-0, right?
Come on, Ted. Is it Ted?
It's Ted.
You don't want just a 3-0 October, because that means you're losing the wake at the end. You want all 4.
That's correct. That's October 28th.
Yeah.
But Tom or Matthew, somebody tweeted out the clip of the hour number 2. So it's just,
it's
you
already
don't have
out.
to watch the whole show.
It's already out.
We
Just
want
go
you
on
to
social
watch
media.
the whole show.
Yeah, I mean,
we're
on your
more
own
than just
leisure.
my hour number 2. So I
Well,
know that's a big highlight for everyone.
Fellas, I'm ready to grill up some victory sausage around 7 p.m. after a Virginia Tech blowout, meaning we blow Virginia Tech out. I got you, Nick and Ashley. If Travis is healthy, do you think we'll finally start to see him keep the ball on some of those read options? Yes. Even at the start of the season, seems like he was wanting to give it to the running back, even though there were times he could have kept and had an easy 20 yards. I believe that's true, too. He's had some misreads. It's okay to point that out. Keep up the good work and go Noles. Yeah, I think we will. I think that stands to reason. Marlon writes, good day, gents. After this bye week, how does Coach Norvell get this offense rolling again? Well, again, being healthy would help, and I think that they're finally getting healthy in some key spots. Obviously, the level of competition is going to diminish a little bit, too.
Not playing Clemson helps.
Yeah. So I think they'll have an opportunity to get it rolling again.
That's kind of the problem when you don't have a good showing offensively, which nobody will against Clemson this year, and then you have a bye week. Well, that's 2 weeks to talk about, coming on the heels of a horrible quarter.
The BC the game at the end. Yeah,
it's a lot to. It's 5 quarters of bad football from the offense to talk about for 2 weeks, 3 weeks really. But let's see what they look like against just a normal average defense.
But that's also good for teaching.
Yes, correct.
Like I'm sure they had their attention.
Then you get to do that with
during the bye week.
10-game winning streak now, 4-0 record.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about this with the group that assembled over at Hotel Indigo before the players came out. We had Keon Coleman and Trey Benson and Jordan Travis come out and speak last week during the bye week at Hotel Indigo, and there were people there that bought tickets, and it was a good time. But one of the things that we brought up was that, look, man, when you see the remainder of this schedule, I think it only stands to reason that Florida State is going to have some opportunities to really hum on offense against some of these teams. I mean, just go look at some of those defenses and what they've given up to teams who have a third of the talent Florida State does. Things are going to look much better.
Mm-hmm.
Things are going to look good, and they haven't been healthy. So now if they don't, I mean, we'll have to have that conversation too. I got you, big dog.
No, my mic picks it up. Get it together,
I'm
Ira.
trying to time it over here. Do you need to go get some water? Maybe. We're transparent. I mean, I'll get it.
It's fine. Yeah, we just shut you down last week. We made you get off the screen.
Nathaniel writes, first off, I hope you feel better this week, Ira.
What timing?
I did.
What timing?
Yeah, and then he says, and possibly Jeff. He seemed a little off last Friday too.
You seemed off on Friday?
I was off on Friday. I didn't do a show.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah,
I got you, Nathaniel. Looking at box scores, Virginia Tech is running the tread completely off the quarterback here. He gets 20-plus carries every week. Yeah. Schrader from Syracuse also runs a lot. In light of that, what's your defensive game plan these next couple of weeks? Here's the good news, Nathaniel. I'll just stop it right there for a moment. Man, these guys aren't 4-3 guys. They're not the kind of guy that if they make a linebacker miss, they then go on to run for 37 yards.
I think Schrader can be if he gets going, but they're not Cassianos or Jaden Daniels. Those guys are different types of athletes when they run the ball. They can turn I think
weird about Schrader. Something's happened to him.
Yeah.
I watched the entirety.
Yeah,
Did you watch the game last week?
Yep.
All right. My man is not nearly as eager. When you go back a couple of years to him running all over us here,
and
he was
those two
machine,
long runs,
and he was running over people, and he's a big dude. I'm not seeing any of that. I see a guy who's like, ooh.
Well, he got lit up.
Well, he did against Purdue. He loved running against Purdue. He ran for 5 touchdowns or
you
whatever it was.
got guys that can do something about it. Tatum Bethune, to his credit, has leveled every quarterback he's faced so far this year at least once. Now, you got to do that early and often this Saturday as well as when you play Syracuse. And then I think my man will be a little bit gun shy.
But I think the Virginia Tech QB, while he's an effective runner, I think his longest run is like 18 yards. Like he's a chain mover.
Yeah, he's a big, strong dude.
But he's not necessarily a guy that's going to run for 57, 58 yards for a touchdown.
He also transferred from Baylor, so I just want to interview him just to find out what it was like.
With Aaron, what's
he
it,
appreciates that?
Yeah.
Dave Aranda?
Aranda, there you go. Are you okay, buddy? You want to
go
out?
Here's the good news, Ira. Hold your breath for 1 second. We're going to break.
No, I want to ask another question while he's gone. I mean, goodness.
Sean wants to know, with the amount of experience and talent on the defensive side of the ball, do you feel under the leadership of a great defensive coordinator, we'd be getting more out of them? A Mickey Andrews or a Brent Venables, perhaps? I think our defensive coordinator is average. Your thoughts on that? That's from Sean.
Yeah, it's I get it that a lot of people wring their hands about Adam Fuller. And I honestly think the jury is still out.
The jury is still out. He's neither great nor terrible.
Right. But he also isn't, he's not terrible. And when you look at these games this year, they held LSU, as bad as that game started,
second half to 7 points.
They held him to 17 points until a minute left against freshman DBs. And that's a great offense. And Boston College, they held to 22 points. Not great, but 7 of those points were the offense giving them a touchdown. And then they held Clemson to 24 points in their own building.
That BC game was
Let's
just hope those guys were really, really sick, and that's a one-off, because that was a terrible.
Yes, correct. Well, it was terrible in spurts, which is what the problem. They have not been consistent.
That's right.
But they had 6 straight stops in that game too, when they took control of the game and went on a 28-0 run. So they have these moments where they play really well. And the BC game at the end, the kid just made plays, man. That happens. That kid can make plays.
Well, things can spiral in any game. I mean, we've seen that throughout the country. We've watched a lot of weird things happen.
He's not Kirby Smart, and he's not Brent Venables. Yeah, there aren't many of those around.
Yeah, that's true. Shane just writes, as long as Ira is getting healthy. It's right here in the chat.
I'm here. I'm good.
You're good.
All good.
What'd you do out in that hallway?
You don't want to know.
Projectile, baby.
Yeah, nice.
Michael writes, will this fan base ever be happy while we're undefeated?
It's a fair question, man. It's a fair question. It is weird how again, we've talked about this, how everything was compacted from where like you went from midway through last season thinking, oh, this is not good. They lost 3 straight games.
Yeah.
Just get 8 or 9 wins.
Then you win those 5-6 straight games and everybody's on top of the world. And then so far now they've beaten LSU and Clemson. They're 4-0 and there's a whole lot of hand wringing going on. I understand it, but I get it also to be like
Jeff, and you've done this because you've had great NFL teams to cheer for. Do you think like Eagles fans?
Not many.
Do you think Eagles fans? But you won a couple Super Bowls in your lifetime.
Yeah.
Do you think Eagles fans right now are like angsty and wringing their hands about what they're watching, even though they're undefeated, or do they just? It's the NFL, man.
The NFL, the NFL's a different animal,
but not by much anymore. It is, but not by much. Like Georgia,
look, Kansas City just barely beat the Jets.
And with college, you feel like there's so much more on the line every week.
That's the issue. That's the problem.
Because in the NFL, you can go 10-7 and go win the Super Bowl.
And I think starting next year, you can lose 3 games and get into the playoff.
Right.
Necessarily.
Right.
Just this year, that's why there's so much.
But also,
angst.
they know, and let's be honest. I mean, I think in fairness to the listeners and to the fans. We talked about this team as a possible national championship team, and they still may be. But I think that we ushered in a set of expectations, and I think rightfully so. We were giving our honest opinion. We weren't trying to mislead anybody. We weren't doing it for clicks. But I do think this team can play a lot better. Yeah. And so it's, on the one hand, you're like, okay, they did what they had to do. That's awesome. They've won 10 straight games. They're 4-0. And as I've said repeatedly, they are in position now to take care of their own destiny, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But they've got to play better in order to do that. And it's fair to point out those deficiencies just because you want them to be great, because it's in them. I think it's in them.
No, I got you. It's just funny, though, because, like, so after the game, guys, I went and watched the LSU post game the other night.
Oh,
that's weird. What a stunner.
He's got issues.
He does. He absolutely has issues.
This is a sign of a serial killer.
Do you scroll their message boards too?
No, this was just
tweak them.
I was just curious to what our buddy Moscato and those guys were, how they were feeling after that loss.
How were they feeling?
Not good at all.
No.
And they were struggling. And I was just sitting there watching them like in their misery and thinking to myself, like, what are they thinking now if they listen to an FSU show? We're sitting here talking about what's gone wrong and all the problems. It's like they're in the pit of misery.
Well, their defense is something to behold.
Or even the Florida show or a Florida press conference. Their expectations weren't as high.
I was going to say their expectations
but I do think that it does happen. I think we still are in this paradigm of where we think it's what it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago, where the great teams win comfortably every week until they play another great team, and then it's anybody's game. And you just, again, you look at everybody but Michigan.
These are all fair points. I just think they're two different things, though, Corey. I believe. I think you're right about that. I think that any given weekend you're watching a game.
I don't think we're even arguing. I think it's more about as a fan base or as the media entity. How do you approach this? Do you appreciate the win,
right,
or do you lament that you're not playing well?
It's a balancing act.
What dominates more? What dominates more?
I know this, that there are days when I go back and listen, and I think, oh man, I think I was overly critical.
You go and listen to your shows?
Yeah, once in a while, just to make sure I'm not screwing things
up.
Self-scouting
Cameron over here.
I like that.
During the bye week.
Yeah, bye week.
But I'll go back because sometimes I've been doing it long enough now that I have a feeling
well, you may want to be like, how did that? And then you want to go back and
you want to see how it sounds.
Right.
Or I'll get in the car and I'll be like, I think you kind of came across as absolutely thinking this team sucks today. Is that how it sounded to, and so I'll go back and listen. And then I'll be like, sometimes I'll be like, no, that was fair. Other times I'll be like, yeah, you never said one positive thing about this. Other times I'll go, well, we are just singing their praises here for an hour straight, and they can't do this, 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 and this. And I owe it to people. We all do, to try to assess it honestly, but it's hard.
Yeah.
It's a weird balancing act.
I went back and watched my Aslan rant last week to see if I was over the top.
And you absolutely were over the top.
I was not at all. Pretty much nailed it.
He was over the top.
It was crazy over the top.
It was that.
Not your argument. Not your, just how mad you got. Even reliving it
feeling well
was over. That's why I didn't push back.
Well, my man was barely able to breathe.
I told Aslan my biggest pushback. Here we go again. My biggest pushback was I would have said, I don't care that we need wireless. Stand at the pump for another 90 seconds and fill up the gas tank.
Right.
That's all.
Whatever.
That's all. See, you're mad again. You're over the top.
Gentlemen, solve the following equation: strength of schedule plus game control plus question mark equals ranking.
Game control.
That's from Colby.
Luckily, game control, I think we'll see, right? We'll see if Florida State's actually being mentioned in the playoff committee's eyes, because it's been 9 years since they've had to mention Florida State, really. Let's see if they bring back game control now that Florida State is relevant again. But that's another month. We got to wait another month for that.
Jordan writes, this is kind of an off-season question, but I'm currently in the middle of a debate with a friend about who was a better player at FSU, Dalvin Cook or Peter Warrick. Ooh. That is a good one, buddy.
I would say that's
the best debate of all time.
That's really hard because Dalvin, by the way, who knows when he would have ever played if Mario Pinder doesn't sprain his ankle
against Syracuse.
Man, Peter Warrick was incredible, but he was also surrounded by so much more incredible than it turned out. Dalvin's quarterbacks his last 2 years were Francois and Smag and Golson. Like he didn't have a lot in the receivers.
I will not have you besmirch Smag.
I know. I apologize. Smag 1-0 against. No, that's not true. 1-1 against Clemson.
And not much of an offensive line either.
That's what I was going to say. The offensive line was bad. There weren't good receivers to take a lot. Like Rudolph was okay.
Corey, where you're going is the right place to go. I think it's Dalvin.
And I think it's an absolute travesty that dude never got to New York City. It makes no sense.
Well,
how could you watch what he did against Clemson every year, a great Clemson defense every year, and be like, yep, I'm going to vote for I got Jordan Lynch. I don't know if Jordan Lynch was one of the five. He wasn't one of the but somebody
against Dalvin.
There were plenty of people in New York that did not belong, and it's crazy they got
Dalvin Cook is an all-time great Seminole. He is elite as they get. And
guys, they take character into consideration. That's why Johnny Manziel got to go.
I see.
That's right. He got to go every year he was eligible. That's right.
Seminole Headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV continues in a moment.
Your local news now.
A Tallahassee man accused of strangling his roommate and dumping her body in the woods is now on trial for murder. Martin Eric Barrett, 61 years old, is charged with first-degree murder in the death of 74-year-old Cecilia Lopez Quesada. Lopez Quesada was reported missing by a coworker when she failed to show up for work on April 5th of last year. Her body was found 2 days later in the woods off Tower Road, covered with branches. Arrest reports say a neighbor's surveillance video showed Barrett backing his truck up into the garage early in the morning and leaving with a large blue covered item in the bed of the truck. Detectives allege there were blood stains inside the home and evidence of blood in Barrett's truck. A jury of 12 plus 2 alternates was selected in the case on Monday, and testimony is expected to begin on Thursday. This is Rachel and A with your Real Talk 93.3 local news update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Ample sunshine expected this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 87. Winds out of the northeast, 8 to 15 miles per hour. Clear skies and quiet again tonight. Lows dip down to about 65. Highs level off around 87 tomorrow. Mainly clear skies. Upper 80s Thursday and Friday. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, 85.
Life is stressful. Dinner shouldn't be. That motto is why Register Sausage has been doing business in the Florida Panhandle and Lower Alabama for over 75 years. A proud sponsor of Seminole Headlines, Register Sausage always provides the best Southern smoked sausage to over 140 grocery stores and restaurants throughout the Southeast. Headliners have discovered the Register's difference. You can too. To find a store that carries Registers near you or to buy directly, head to registermeats.com. That's registermeats.com. Register Sausage. Yay, sausage!
As a truck driver, I've learned how important road safety is. I know that large trucks need more time and room to stop. That's why I always hang back and follow other vehicles at a safe distance. Everyone can help keep our roads safe. So next time you're driving, try to remember to always give trucks extra space when you merge in front of them. Let's all plan to share the road safely. Learn how at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Real Talk fact number 44. Banging your head against the wall for 1 hour burns 150 calories. This is Real Talk 93.3, Tallahassee's Real Talk station.
Seminole Headlines returns now. Head to YouTube and search for Warchant TV today to catch the show live or on demand. Now, here's Jeff Cameron, Ira Schofel, and Corey Clark.
I like this question. Levi writes, do you think the pressure put on this team to have a special season has them playing slightly hesitant? Seems like when their back is against the wall, they lean into their talent and instinct, and that's when they play to their potential. Good question, Levi. I don't think that's a reason, but it's an interesting theory.
On defense, they do. On offense, again, they did not do well when their backs were against the wall necessarily. But, yeah, I mean, it's such a different, as Jimbo used to say, each team has a one-year life expectancy. This team does have a different, obviously, makeup and psyche than last year's team.
Yeah, and I think there's a question about this. I don't know if we're going to address it or not. I saw it in my feed, but like the idea that you did have so many new pieces to this team, like it's an experienced team, it's a veteran team, but it's not all guys that played together before. And so I think there's that identity that you're kind of searching for, maybe harder to kind of come by because, you are mixing and matching some pieces from different teams at a lot of different positions.
That's fair. One part of the offense we haven't done as much of this year or haven't gotten as much from this year is the throwback screen to the tight end. After watching Biscuit and McDonald get run down too much last year, I want to see Bell run that. Well, they had the touchdown throwback to him against LSU, which was a beautiful play.
Yeah.
And I think they've called it several more times. And
how crazy is it, by the way? I was just thinking about this last night. The first play of overtime against Clemson, which is the biggest series of the year, maybe. It certainly
and
at
the
that
ball
point.
to Jaheim Bell with Trey Benson leading.
Jaheim Bell gets a carry.
Yeah, it shows the desperation to get something going in the running game. They were trying anything.
But
yeah, they had Trey Benson lead.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, I thought so too. Good thing they
have
the one-on-one shot.
Yeah. Good thing Battle's End is around.
Yeah.
Keon's out there.
Nate writes, hey, fellas, in Sweet Pea, if we beat Virginia Tech by 30, how many more ranking spots do we fall?
Yeah, they'll be out of the top 10.
Peter writes, what up, guys? You guys are seriously the best. Do you think Coach is playing the long game with our soft D in that first half? Can these kids push themselves 150% from snap one with aggressive D for the remainder of the season? Let it rip, Mike.
Yeah. Nobody likes soft D.
Hey, now. Tyler writes, gentlemen, with the path forward to the playoffs looking like an undefeated season, how worried are you all about road games with Pitt and Wake?
Wake
less worried than I was before the season against Pitt. I can tell you that.
Wake, absolutely.
Both of them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you look, man, they played 2 road games. They won 1 in overtime and 1 by 2 points against a horrible team. So they have not proven yet that they can go out on the road and dominate.
About Pitt.
Well, sure, not now, but it might third quarter. If it's 17-17, you might be. I'm not worried about them right now either, but we'll see. My worry factor though for Pitt has lessened by 70%.
Yeah, I was going to say, what number are you putting on that one?
But they might figure it out. Maybe Jerkovich gets it going.
Burke writes, is it time for let's get nuts aggressive kind of defense? Force other teams to speed up possessions one way or the other. I've been calling for it all year. I hope they do it. I
would
think
like
it's the best way to play.
a couple 3 and outs would be nice. Look, again, the defense overall is at giving up 20-something, low 20s per game. They've been
okay.
Right, but they've been good. If you have an elite offense, they are plenty good. Like USC would kill for this. If USC had this defense, USC would be number 1 in the country.
The ACC's funeral procession writes, good day, fellas. We have a lot of new starters / contributors. Here's your question, Ira, along with, so you answered it. Dad guy, Willie Napier was on Dabo's staff until 2011. Almost got Dabo fired. Now Napier's at UF, about to get himself as an analyst position with Nick Saban.
Yeah.
That being said, who would be more of a danger to us if UF hired them? Deion Sanders, Elko, or Ken Dorsey?
Where's Ken Dorsey?
He's the offensive coordinator in the NFL for their offense is humming. What the hell is wrong with me? Sorry.
Detroit?
No.
The Falcons?
Who's Ken Dorsey with?
It doesn't matter.
We're going to tell you in about 2 seconds. I just got done watching this. He's doing a great job.
The thing about Deion is clearly.
He's the offensive coordinator for Buffalo.
Okay. Oh, yeah, they're good. Yeah. But they also, I mean,
I know
is that Dorsey or is that the talent? Deion would would load the roster. What I wonder about Deion is the coaching staff he hires, but I think at Florida you probably have more money to go hire really good assistants.
I would also say this. We're in year 1
Charles
of the grand
Kelly
experiment. There are rumors of massive changes to the transfer portal rules.
Yes, correct.
That would be a disastrous hire if you brought a guy in who couldn't then utilize the portal to radically shift his roster.
Yeah, this was a this was a post-COVID world situation where they created a situation where you could replace your entire roster. That wouldn't be in existence. Even if they don't make changes, this 2-year thing is supposed to be over next year. But yeah, I mean, I'll say this about Deion. He has a couple of things I was questioning in terms of how he would handle. I think he's handled really well. One of the big ones was how he handled the media when he lost. And if he got, and if he got embarrassed, the way they got embarrassed by Oregon, I think he's handled that really well. He's been very good in those post-game press conferences.
It's a good sign that, man, I thought they were going to lose by 55 points the way that game played. Well, I thought they were going to lose 65-7.
The most impressive thing.
I thought they'd given up, and they really fought, and they made that a real game.
The most impressive thing that Colorado's done this year is the second half against USC.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great
really
showing. Nothing. Yeah.
I will say this. I was listening to Peter King, and he was talking about would Deion ever be an NFL coach, and the thought is that Jerry Jones wants to bring him into Dallas if they fail this year or whatever it might be. And then they were saying, well, no, he wouldn't do that because he wants to see it through in Colorado. I laughed at the idea that he wants to see it through.
He's got his roots down in Boulder.
Yeah. And then secondly, he was like, well, in college football anymore, you can just completely change your roster every year.
This is a short window thing.
I think that's changing. I don't think you can do that.
The other, as far as Elko, he'd be good. I mean, he's obviously done a good job at Duke. The problem is again, I think it's kind of going back to this whole thing with Napier is he wants to be this like defensive run first guy. And like, even if he's successful as that, is that what Florida fans really want? And it's kind of we get back to the same thing with Florida State. Like Florida State wants to be good on offense too. Like they want to win, but they also want to be really good. That was kind of always my feeling with Jimbo was happy winning 16-13. And I felt like, winning was great, but once you weren't winning at a high level and you're just kind of getting by and grinding out these wins, it's not even that fun.
No, you don't want to be Iowa. You don't want to be Iowa that grinds out.
So I don't know that Elko makes a whole lot of sense. Muschamp didn't make sense.
Elko will go take that Michigan State job and do really well.
Maybe.
Perfect climate.
By the way, guys, the reviews are in. Stephanie said that's the hottest hour number 2 that's ever been.
Okay.
That's an unbiased observer.
And that was done without a spray tan. Imagine
next week.
I know.
Oh, my gosh. Are you kidding me?
Any of you boys take a gander at UF's schedule next year? Take a look and tell me if you think they keep old Billy around so they can ride it out with him just to fire him at the end of that year.
Aslan was saying, like, they have to play Texas and Oklahoma,
It's crazy. Yeah, they finally have it. Yes, it's a real schedule.
And they're out of conferences, Miami, Florida State, and somebody else that's pretty good.
See, I wish ESPN would stop doing this nonsense. If you pull up Florida's schedule on ESPN's site, they don't give you the option to look up 2024.
Yeah.
Whereas you can do it on any other site. They'll let you quickly pull that up. You got it up?
No.
We do
Ask
on the
another
screen.
question.
We got it on the screen. Let's look at it. Yeah.
I don't see it. I don't see nothing
Matthew's
on the screen.
putting it up right now. It's right there.
Oh, there it is.
Next year, they have Miami, Sanford, UCF, Georgia, Florida State, Kentucky, who they just got drugged by, LSU, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, Tennessee, and Texas. Ooh.
Yeah. So they have to go at Texas. Yeah. Yep. That's going to be tough.
Honestly, throw that back up. Imagine now Florida State's in the SEC, like we've talked about, and your schedule, go to the top, Matthew. Your schedule reads Florida State versus Miami, UCF, Georgia, Kentucky, LSU, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Tennessee, Texas, and Mississippi State.
Hey, man.
That's a rugged one.
It is. But hey, it's a 12-team playoff. Just you don't have to win them all. Just win most of them.
That is true. Is pre-snap motion legal in college football like the pros? Yes. Could we use some of it with Hill or Toafili, please?
Yeah. Norvell's getting the denies are out.
The denies are out, buddy.
There was a thread about that on our message boards also about the lack of motion at Clemson. I think you probably scale down some of that because you're on the road in a really difficult place to hear cadences and all that. You're not going to be doing a lot of things that could lead to false starts is all I'm saying.
I will tell you this. I do think Florida State's offense, for everybody out there, is going to look a lot better starting this week.
Right.
And then we'll reassess this situation in 2 to 3 weeks. We'll still be critical if they're having a hard time winning first down, which I was critical of even after the LSU game. But we will also have a little bit larger sample size.
Better sample size with a more normal circumstances.
A broader group of defenses that you've gone against.
All right, Ira, go get some fluids in you, buddy.
Please.
And Corey, be good, and go get your spray tan on.
I'm getting that tonight.
There
How
it
did you
is.
know that?
I
I'm
just
getting on
guessed.
tonight.
I
All
knew
right.
you couldn't wait to do it. You were like a kid.
Shirtless pic coming to you about 8 o'clock.
That's his reward.
Yeah, that's my reward.
Stephanie said you did good hour number 2. You
Yep,
get your
I
spray
get my
tan.
spray tan.
Good work, Director Matthew. Be well, everybody. We'll talk to you real soon. Peace.
There's fun to be